I'll just give it one more minute and then we'll go ahead and start. But I apologize to everybody on the line today. I have a lot of stuff going on around my house, including jackhammering next door, and children and dogs. So hopefully we'll get through this meeting without too much interruption. Please feel free to mute me if I forget to mute myself, Kendall, during a partner report. Okay, how many people do we have? I think we'll go ahead and start. We've got 44 people on the line today. So I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order on April 14th, 2021. This is the Virginia Association of Soil and Water Conservation Districts quarterly board meeting. So I believe that roll call is being taken by the association staff. Did you want folks to go ahead and add their names and their districts or their partnering agency into the chat box so that we can get a record of that information for the minutes? And I see some of you know the drill and are already starting to do that. And I appreciate you guys leading the way. I love my early adopters there, going ahead and moving right on forward. All right. Again, you know, this is a Zoom call. We have some folks in the office today with Kendall, but just remember, if you have any challenges with the Zoom, to please go ahead and speak up when we go to take our first board action. Today, I will step through the instructions for voting. But right now, I just wanted to welcome everybody to the meeting, and regretfully we're still in our Zoom space, so hopefully as we all get vaccinated and move forward, we'll start to be able to have some more in-person meetings. I'd like to toss this meeting very quickly over to Mr. Clyde Chrisman from DCR. He cannot stay with us very long today because he's got a lot going on in the office, and so he'd like to say a few words, and we're gonna just toss it over to him. Clyde, would you like to speak a little bit to us and let us know what's going on in your world?
Well, good morning, and thank you, Madam President, and thank you for letting me jump in quickly here. I am triple booked. Virginia's hosting the National River Management Symposium, a virtual meeting that started yesterday that's going on right now. And then I was appointed by the governor to the Virginia Geographical Information Network Advisory Board, and we've got a meeting coming up in just a few minutes that I've got to jump to that too. The one thing I wanted to mention to you too, we're opening a new state park. Machicomico State Park will be our 40th state park, and we're opening that on Friday. So we are feverishly working to get that prepared. That's going to be rather fascinating because the governor and I will be there with a limited number of folks to do the opening, but we will be live streaming the opening. And Russ, if you would please get that link to you can get it from Dave Newdeck and share it with Kendall later. So any of you that would like to see that at 11 o'clock on Friday, this is the first time we've done a virtual park opening, so that's going to be real interesting.
Yeah, Kendall, I'll send you the link.
Great, thanks. But I really just wanted to take a moment. I'm not going to get into the details because I know you're going to hear, I'm sure, from Don in the legislative report, and then of course Daryl and Russ will be on for the duration, but I wanted to just congratulate the association and congratulate all of you. I think what it shows when we all come together and work together, the successes that we have. I know you'll be talking about particularly the budget and some of the legislation, tax credit bills and whatnot, but it was really a phenomenal session. I would have never dreamed going into this session with COVID and everything going on. And even a year ago when we were first getting into, this global pandemic and would have never imagined that we would be where we are today. And with now moving into FY22, we're going to have yet again a very robust budget for cost share. And most importantly, something that we've been partnering with the association and many of our other partners on for years now. It looks like we finally got that base technical assistance appropriation in the base general fund budget. So we don't have to fight for that for every year, the $4.55 million. So I'm very pleased about that. something that I know that I've been working with you guys on since back in the days when I was at Senate Finance. So I won't take any more of your time. I do want to, I will probably tell you, I don't feel real good today because I got my second Pfizer COVID vaccine yesterday. So I'm feeling a little queasy, but that will be, I'm sure, be fine by later this afternoon. And hopefully, Madam President, we can be doing this again in person and sometime in the near future. I really hope that maybe by December, I look forward to seeing you guys all at the annual meeting in person. So thank you for indulging me. And I'm gonna stick around for a few minutes, but I hope y'all have a great meeting.
Thank you. So I sympathize with you. I had my second Pfizer last Thursday. I was actually sick for 3 days. It was terrible. So hopefully it'll pass with you and you'll be done and on your way in a shortly. So all right. I guess we'll just go ahead and start walking through the agenda. I appreciate everybody participating today during our Zoom, and I am multitasking to the max here, so I'm going to try to pull Kendall's pull up the agenda for me, I see. Okay, so I would like to make a few notes here, and the staff, please help me out if I miss anything. Just a reminder, as we go through our virtual Zoom meeting here, your agenda has links to all of these items and reports that we're going to be talking about today. So in your agenda, if you'd like to view the report or, for instance, the meeting minutes, please feel free to click on the links to go to those documents. Also, as we've done in previous meetings, when we go to take a board action, of course, we still need a motion and a second. And then when we go to vote, if you go down to the participants icon at the very bottom of your screen, at least I don't see that in mine now. Did we add a function for voting?
Steph, I don't see it on my end. I think a few of you were texting with me to say you could see the tally. If you can you explain how you got to it? All right. Janina, we might need to do an up-down vote for our small board and we'll go into Zoom. It might have been in the latest update. It's changed our settings at the bottom.
Kendall, is your concern just being able to see the results of the voting?
I cannot see yes, no either.
No, I can't either. I don't have a yes, no option. I just pulled it up to.
That is interesting. So for me, right below the participant list where it's always been, I've got yes, no. I wonder why it's disappeared for some folks. I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, I have an invite and a mute me.
All right, I have the same. If we can at least for the beginning purposes do an up-down vote and see if there are yays, nays. It's a small enough board, I can capture it for the minutes and we'll make sure as we head into other meetings, we fix that.
Okay, all right, so scratch what I said. And so we're gonna do the up-down vote. So we'll do a traditional type of meeting motion. All right, so we're just gonna walk into it. And again, thank you all for participating today. I know sometimes it's difficult to engage in a Zoom format. I do encourage folks as we go through these reports to ask questions, put questions in the chat box. The staff will help me navigate any questions to identify folks that have an interest in speaking. We have a very full agenda today. As Kendall alluded to earlier, we have a lot of partner reports, but hopefully we'll get through it with enough time for questions. And then after our meeting, the foundation will be having their meeting. I encourage everyone to stay on for the foundation meeting if you're interested.
Gianna, can you hear me? This is Daphne Jamison. I can get to the yes, no votes on more. I have a little thing on my computer that says more, and that's where I found it.
Yeah, no, I'm still not seeing it. I don't know what's going on. It may have something to do with recent updates because I don't even see a more on mine. All right, well, by some magic, I find it on mine, or the staff finds it on theirs that have a different view. Please feel free to interrupt us so that we can figure it out. But right now, I don't see it. Okay, so let's move right on ahead. So our first action item today is the approval of our December Association Board meeting minutes. As you recall, that we had a virtual meeting on December 7th. Due to the COVID-19 restrictions. And so the meeting minutes are linked in your agenda. Hopefully everybody had some time to review those. So we need a motion to approve those meeting minutes today.
I, Don Wells, Secretary Treasurer of the Association, move to approve the minutes as presented.
Thank you, Don. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
And that's Stephen Meeks. Again, as we go through this, if you are giving the motion, please state your name so that we can record those for the minutes, especially if you're making the motion in the virtual space and you're not in the meeting room with Kendall. Okay, is there any discussion? Any discussion on the meeting minutes as presented? Okay, we're moving on. All those in favor of approving the Board of Directors meeting minutes from December 7th, 2020, signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, nay. All right, motion carried. Thank you. All right, yes, no options are under reactions.
True, and the latest update has moved them for folks.
Well, that's annoying. Let me practice. Oh, look, there I am. I'm a yes. Okay. All right, folks. So we figured it out. I appreciate Kathy Clark guiding us to where this is. During the latest Zoom update, it looks like the yes, no buttons are in the reactions icon. This is a smiley face with a plus sign. If you click on that, it's to the right of your screen. It gives you a bunch of icons. Two of them are a yes, a green check, and a no, a red X. So we will give that a try coming up right now and see if we can make that work. So the next item on our agenda is the review and approval of the treasurer's reports. Again, this is the review, and the board action here is to approve the treasurer's reports for filing. And so in your packet, again, there are links to the association's treasury report and the VCAP grant financial report. And Don Wells is going to, luckily he's in the office with us today. He is going to give us our report. And so Don, if you could do our report for us.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. On the income side of the ledger, I want to call your attention to one item, which is the Mountain Valley Pipeline investment transfer. We transferred $298,760 out of that fund to pay some of the expenses that have already been incurred. And that was not a budgeted item, and I'll comment on that later. The total income is $576,005.31. And the expenses overall are in line with the budget. And I will highlight two items. One is down near the bottom of expenses, we have that expenditure of $298,760 from the Mountain Valley Pipeline. And I would note the item below that, annual meeting and virtual training, we're showing $15,000 and a $2,000 budget. And I want to call that to your attention because we've done a lot of virtual training. We have other virtual training coming up this year. We are providing some services to the conservation districts through the DCR grant. And that's why we have greater expenditure. And the total expenditure is $570,337.93. And the reason that shows higher than the budget is because of the Mountain Valley Pipeline transfer. I just want to make that clear that we're not over budget. If you add $300,000 or take $300,000 away from the expenses, then we're well within our budget for this year. And then we have in the checkbook, this was as of March 31st, we have $216,064. And in the investment, we had $197,000. And the pipeline investment was 3.5 million. Are there any questions on the report for the association? If not, I'm going to ask Kendall to highlight the VASWCD VCAP report. With my vision problems, I'm having a little difficulty on reading those.
Those numbers are fairly small. I apologize. I have it on your screen. This is one we try to share with you every quarterly report also, just to provide you insights on how we're spending our VCAP grant funds. These are prescribed to us in terms of which categories they can be spent in through our DCR and our DEQ grants. This is the least amount of grants that we've got on a quarterly report for you, but still certainly moving funding through. A lot of this is all passed through for cost share and TA, and the total income and expense will give you a good overview of where we are on those VCAP funds. I'll stop there unless there are questions.
I'd like to add to that we are fortunate, and this will come up in the legislative report, that we had a state appropriation this year of $500,000, and next year the General Assembly has added an additional $500,000, so we'll have $1 million in the VCAP funds from state sources. If there be no questions, I would move that the treasurer's report be received and filed for audit.
Do I have a second? Who spoke up? Stephen Meeks. Okay, so we have a Don Wells for our first and Stephen Meeks for our second. Are there any questions or do we have any discussion on the reports as presented? All right. Well, we're going to move to a vote, and we're still going to do a verbal vote, an up down, because apparently not everybody has the Zoom update. So sorry for that confusion. The perfect time for an update is when you have a big meeting like this. That's okay. Like everything else, we'll adapt and we'll keep moving forward. So right now we'll go to a vote. All those in favor of accepting the treasurer's reports for the association and the VCAP grant financial treasurer's report signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. All right, motion carried. Thank you all. Thank you, Don. It's good to see you in the office today.
I'm doing well. My physical therapy from my rotator cuff surgery is going very well.
Oh, that's good to hear. Good to hear. Thank you. All right, so we're going to move on to our next agenda item, and we have Stephen Meeks in the office there with Kendall, and he is our NACD rep for the association. And so, Stephen, I'm just going to hand it over to you.
All right, thank you, Madam President. Kendall has provided links to the NACD annual report and the National Conservation Foundation annual report in your packet. And I just ask that you take a look at those when you have time. They're both for the years 2020. So nothing of this year, nothing about this year's annual meeting. So NACD is continuing to conduct business. So with limited office staff time, everybody's been working remotely, but everything seems to be going along fairly well. The annual meeting that was held virtually this year, the final numbers came in for the attendance, the registered attendance. It was 1,850 people, which is a record. That is participants. So that's more than double what they thought they might have gotten, probably more than double what they would have gotten if we had met in person at New Orleans. So that went off very well, I think. There were a few glitches along the way, but for the most part, it worked out very well. It was a great event. A little bit long for me, but 2 weeks worth of meetings. They could have shortened it a little bit for me, but anyway, I think it went off well. Now, the executive board of NACD met 2 weeks ago and voted to hold the summer board meeting as an in-person meeting. It will be held in Chicago this year. Let's see, what is it? July 24th through 27th. And those dates coincide with the 75th anniversary of the organizational meeting of NACD, which was also held in Chicago. So it'll be a 3-day event with the actual anniversary being on the 26th of July. The annual meeting for next year is being planned for Orlando, Florida in February. Oh, and this year's Southeast Regional meeting is being planned August 8th to the 11th in Gulf Shores, Alabama. And for 2022, we got word yesterday that Puerto Rico is very much interested in hosting both the Southeast Regional meeting in 2022, as well as the NACD summer meeting in 2022 to be held concurrently. Kendall's also included a link to the Southeast Region newsletter. If you're interested in getting this, I would encourage you to sign for it because Candace Avenatti, who is our Southeast Region representative, is doing a great job of assembling news from all across the Southeast. I mean, it's covering everything from the TA assistant grant programs, soil stewardship week, highlights of what various states. She's doing a great job here, and it's a great way to keep up with what's going on in the Southeast region. The Southeast sort of leads NACD in leadership and organization, and many of the other regions around the nation are trying to copy the Southeast at this point. They have been, their Southeast representation have been attending our meetings to see how we do things.
Mr. Meeks, I can certainly start sharing this all district if you'd like me to.
Oh, please, that would be great. That would be great.
Did share information on the TA grants via all district this week and have heard there might be interest.
Okay.
The stewardship week is later this month, and I would mention also that NACD joined us for our video creation workshop, and that video creation workshop led to some videos that will be highlighted and spotlighted. So.
The Southeast region we had our meeting last night, and that was highlighted. We got a lot of accolades for that effort. And thank you, Kendall. John Peters and I were reappointed to the legislative committee for NACD, and John was reappointed to the urban committee, urban RPG group. So thanks for John for continuing to help out in that regards. Let's see. The last thing, I have a list of the Virginia districts who have contributed to the NACD support fee for this year. And we have 7 outstanding districts who have not paid anything yet. I would ask that those districts please contribute. In the past, Virginia's been recognized with 2 awards for our participation, for 100% participation, and the amount of money contributed to NACD. So if districts have some financial difficulties or restraints and can't make
Laker.
You should be welcome.
I think I looked at it.
Okay.
So I think that's about it, Kendall. Yes,
Okay,
that should be it.
All right, thanks, Stephen. And again, as Stephen said, you know, if your district's having some difficulty with your support fees, please let the association know. Don't just, you know, just don't sit on it, because I'm sure that we can find a way to help you out, and hopefully maybe we can get a reminder out to those districts. I know things can get really busy, and we'll try to help you out. And again, thanks, Stephen. We really appreciate your support and your attendance and representation at the NACD virtual meetings. And I am looking forward to attending the Southeast meeting this year with you, and possibly, you know, attending, I guess, as a past president for the following February. We'll see how it goes, but
Thank you.
thank you. Right, and like I said, as Debbie Cross said, you know, I think a reminder would be useful, Kendall, if you guys could reach out and do that for us. Gentle reminder. All right, so we'll move on now to our standing committee plans and reports. And did Ricky Rash join us, by the way, for our legislative committee reports, Kendall?
I don't know if I saw Ricky join from the weight room, but if he did, please speak up. I did see a phone number join that potentially could have been him. I know he might be multitasking this morning, but am prepared to speak to that too. And you do have some really great partners on the line that I know will be speaking to this topic also. Ricky, just double checking.
You hear?
Hey, there you go. I can hear you
Can you
now.
hear me?
Yes, sir.
I don't have a lot to report on legislative that we haven't already heard from you, Kendall, through the all district emails. It was a very successful legislative session, I thought. An additional $30 million. We got the board appointment legislation passed as well. Not much to go over with that. I'm sure you'll follow up, but the one thing I would say to everybody is that this is an election year. If you have a chance to court to gubernatorial candidates, let's make sure that we let all of the candidates know, because we never know who's going to get the nomination, who we are, what we do, and how we do it, and that we're a bargain for the state. The House of Delegates, they're all up for election, and I would say do the same thing if you have a contested election. Let both sides of the parties know who we are and what we do, and who you vote for is a different matter. But if they don't know who we are the day they take office, then we have an uphill battle. So education starts now.
Ricky,
And other than that, I got a tractor overheating, and I'm sitting in the middle of a field waiting on somebody to come get me.
That's real life. I really appreciate the comments and your help as our legislative committee chair. It was certainly a session for the history books in an all virtual setting, but there was some opportunity for us to really be able to hone in and get 15-minute sessions via Zoom with certain legislators that normally wouldn't have happened. And we really did have some success with our really narrowed down focused legislative agenda. It was a really big win for natural resources. During area meetings, we've been sharing the updates in terms of your funding streams and expectations for near record level cost share. Again, this coming July 1st, the General Assembly added 30 million on top of what the governor proposed. So we're looking at 60 million plus recordation fee and other funds to be allocated by the Soil and Water Board in the next 2 months. I would also add, per your legislative agenda, we did, as Mr. Wells said, get additional funding for VCAP above the governor's proposal to get it back to $1 million. And additionally, we focused on that Soil and Water Board legislation to ensure geographic representation on the board, and was successful in that passing too. I'll stop with updates since I know Mr. Baxter with DCR and folks will speak to the tax credits and other items later in their partner report, perhaps. I would add that our work with Delegate Plum, who was a patron for us on some of these topics, was phenomenal. He and Senator Hanger were excellent to work with. Delegate Plum's connection with us has also turned into an intern from VCU who will be working with us this summer, who interned with him during session. So we are excited about that connection and opportunity also.
Thanks, Kendall. Kendall stole everything I was going to say.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. I was going to talk about, and kudos to the staff and the different board members that participated in the legislative session. And it was one, like she said, one for the record books, just something really different. And I think that it really paid off for us. And I think a lot of folks found being able to have these 15-minute meetings, 15-minute meetings with Zoom allowed for that kind of one-on-one, low-stress communication. You're not worried about who's standing outside your door. If anybody's been to a legislative session, they know that there could be, 4 organizations deep outside of some of these legislators' doors. And it's a little intimidating. And so I think it really allowed for us to have some good, meaningful conversations that resulted in just a phenomenal outcome that we could not have expected. So thank you for that. And thanks, Ricky, for joining us from the tractor. Lisa maybe had something to do while you're waiting in the field.
President France, I might also add that with our intern this summer, I do have hope and would love district interest if off-season outreach, like Ricky spoke about, would be a really great project for her to work on. Sometimes it is that extra help to set up a meeting or us to host the Zoom for you with a legislator, ensure that the invitation is given to them, especially if you're meeting in a virtual setting. I've worked with a number of districts who've invited legislators still to a virtual meeting. It makes it easy for them to pop into a board meeting in that format. So that might be a focus of our interns' work this summer, and I'm happy to brainstorm ideas with any of you to help on that front.
That's great, thank you. And I think that's really important. I think that's one of the things that we kind of forget about in the interim space is that in very important conversations that take place prior to and after the General Assembly session. For our federal updates, John Peterson unfortunately can't be with us today. Kendall could talk to some of that if you have questions. His report is linked in your agenda. So hopefully, if you're interested in what's going on a federal level, you can take a look at his report. I don't necessarily have a specific topic to address. Kendall, is there something that you wanted to raise to the board of interest in the report?
Sure, I can comment briefly. Mr. Peterson emailed me this morning and noted to make sure you realize these are live links to some important articles he thought might be of interest. He noted that lawmakers are reintroducing legislation that would pump billions of dollars into farm bill conservation programs to help with greenhouse gas emissions. He also noted that USDA is expanding offerings to food banks under the Emergency Food Assistance Program. There were articles to both of those that he thought might really be of interest. If there are questions, he'd be happy to work one-on-one with any of you.
Great. Anybody have any questions? All right, does anybody have any general discussion or questions regarding, either the state or the federal legislative committee reports, or any questions about, interactions with our legislators that may have taken place in January? No? All right, well then we'll just go ahead and move right along. Next up is our Marketing and Public Relations Committee reports. And I believe that we have Lisa Hyatt on the line today. And I think Lisa is going to give us our report. And again, these reports, just as a reminder, are linked in your agenda if you're interested in looking at them now or reviewing them at a later date. So Lisa, are you available to speak?
I am. Good morning, everyone. How are you? Good to be here. I'll try to move quickly because I know we have a lot to get through today. The marketing committee has been busy these last few months. I'll start at the beginning of my my brief report here. We hosted a training and launch of our long-awaited marketing toolkit back in January that was well attended and well received. I went through the toolkit and taught our participants how to use the toolkit, how to go to that for all sorts of resources on templates, how-tos, videos, and such to help them with their outreach efforts. We're happy to announce that the toolkit is now hosted on the association's website for everyone to reference and to go through. We hope that it'll be really valuable for districts to use this upcoming year with all their outreach efforts. Moving down into our annual plan of work, as you know, we have to update the annual plan of work every year. We met a few weeks back and went through that document, and we've attached it to the report. Here it is. Thank you. We are going to continue our efforts to reach out to districts and assess their needs for trainings and relevant resources. One of the things we've decided to reintroduce this year is a web presence survey that we sent out last summer. We decided as a committee that as part of our annual plan of work, we're going to continue to put out that survey to assess districts' needs. Our sub goal this year is to hopefully get 100% participation from all districts in completing that survey. Last year, we got about half of the districts. We had an idea of personally reaching out to districts to encourage them to complete that survey so that we can find out what exactly districts need in terms of ongoing trainings and resources, especially when it comes to their web presence, whether they need trainings on how to design a website or how to get into social media, that sort of thing. So that's one of our goals for this year. Another goal will be reviewing the marketing toolkit on a quarterly basis and adding things as they come up and as we find that they're relevant. Another goal, moving down to the second block, will be we're going to design a basic how-to guide on how districts can reach out to community partners and media. So how do they reach out to local newspapers, TV reporters, that sort of thing. We discovered that not a lot of districts actually know how to do that, how to write a press release, how to let media and community partners know exactly what they're up to. We're also going to continue our resources and trainings on topics like video creation and engagement on social media. These are topics that we hear consistently that districts need training and help on how to do this, how to make more videos, how to do social media, how to create posts, how to create ads. So we're going to keep continuing our training efforts in that on that topic. And then these things at the bottom of the annual plan of work didn't change too much. We're going to continue to help with the annual photo contest and lead relevant trainings at Graves Mountain. And we'll continue to provide guidance on the membership directory, which will hopefully be more geared to an online directory in the coming year. So we're very happy with this plan of work. We're excited to get moving on it for this year. We've got a lot of great ideas and I think a lot of enthusiasm coming from the committee members. So I'm excited to see what new and exciting things we can come up for outreach efforts for districts in the coming year. And if anyone has any questions or further suggestions on the annual plan of work, I'm happy to take those and take them to the committee.
You, Lisa. So we need to approve the 2021 marketing plan of work. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion, Stephen Meeks.
Thank you, Stephen.
A Granville Maitland second.
Thank you, Granville. All right, any discussion on the marketing plan of work as presented by Lisa? Okay, All those in favor of approving the 2021 marketing plan of work signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. Motion carried. Thank you, Lisa, for your report. I really appreciate that. And I know that the Marketing and Public Relations Committee is doing just an astounding job, working with the staff and trying to get some of these resources out to all the districts. It's been very critical in this virtual space, and we appreciate the committee's efforts. So we'll move on to the Admin and Ops Committee, and Susie Brown is on the line, and she's going to give us a report and then talk to us about the Admin Ops plan of work. Susie, I'll turn it over to you.
Hi, Giannina. So the committee met on March 22nd. We had about 40 people participated virtually. We basically went over what districts are experiencing related to COVID and new operations procedures. We reviewed training needs for the coming year, and we went over the annual plan of work. And Ken will just put that on the screen. One of the things we really felt that has been a plus during this COVID time is we've been having like admin ops committee meetings kind of like every other month. And they've been really well attended. And I think they've been really helpful because it's had districts from across the state and just sharing, what we're experiencing related to staff being in the office or out of the office and field work related to COVID and putting these procedures in place to make sure our staff are safe. So we went through a lot of that. We also talked about training needs for the coming year. And that's one of the things in the, I'll just skip over to the annual plan of work. We put in there to continue the bi-monthly virtual calls just to touch base with each other, but we've just found it so beneficial. Then we talked about training needs. We're going to have some more operations training, personnel. The operations binder, our goal is to get that updated this year and have for distribution in December that would include some of these new COVID procedures and policies as a template for districts. And Terry Higgins will be helping us with that. We will also be having, I'm trying to think here. And I think, Kendall, I'm drawing a blank here. What were some of the other ideas we were talking about for training besides the operations and personnel? Oh, budgeting.
There you go.
We were going to have some financial training related to budgeting, have the auditors come on and talk about creating a budget. We also had some requests for personnel evaluations in a virtual world. So really just those few things were the changes to the annual plan of work. And then we'll just, anything else that may come up will come under that as needed category.
To add to Susie's comments, we've taken some of those insights from their committee meetings and already moved forward on some of them. One of them includes us putting on retainer a CPA for districts. That includes 100 hours for districts to use. We don't really know how long that will take, but the committee will start working at their next meeting on how to roll that out, and we'll be asking that CPA to come to that meeting and work with them in terms of understanding how to really begin that relationship. And to Susie's point, we'll be on the lookout this summer for both beginner and advanced QuickBooks sessions, 1099 training, as well as attachment D training in May.
So we have a busy summer and fall planned. And that's all I had in case unless you have questions.
Thank you, Susie. All right, so just like we did before, we'll need a motion to approve the 2021 Admin's Ops Plan of Work.
Motion by Jim Gelson.
I heard Jim Gelson.
Give it to Jim.
I'll second it.
Steven seconds it. All right, any discussion on the Admin and Ops Plan of Work? All right, hearing none, we'll move to the vote. All those in favor of approving the 2021 admin and ops plan of work signify by saying aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion carried. Thank you all. Again, Susie, like I did with Lisa, I have to commend the Admin and Ops Committee. Again, there's very important topics here that have been presented to the district staff. And I think the virtual training sessions that we have been able to offer in light of COVID-19 have been extremely valuable to district staff. I know I've heard and talked to my district staff, and they are very grateful for all the work that the Admin Ops Committee is doing to help kind of guide and streamline, our process and in-office procedures as we move through and adapt. So, well, thank you very much, Susie.
Thank you.
All right, so that's going to move us into our area chair reports. I believe that we do have all area one represented, all the areas represented today, and we're going to start off with area one, and you can link to the area one report. And I believe that we have, do we have either Kevin or Rick on the line?
Yeah, this is Kevin.
All right, Kevin, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thank you. I'll keep it brief. Appreciate everyone being here today. I guess first on our agenda is our area one meeting is scheduled for April 27th. We're looking forward to that. On the agenda would be Senator Hanger. Hopefully he will be able to attend virtually. And also we're going to have a presentation from the Virginia Soil Health Coalition, Mary Sketch. And I think that will be an informative presentation as well. Other than that, there's business as usual. There's been a lot of discussion about the inflation that we're seeing with our individual costs on a lot of our practices. That's causing a lot of heartburn in our different offices, and we're in continuing discussion on how to handle that and and still maintain our reputation as being there for the producers in our area. So beyond that, unless there are questions, that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Does anybody have any questions for the area one or anything additional to add to the area one report? All right, well, thank you very much. We will be moving on now to area two. And do we have Mr. Flannery on the line here to give us a report from area two? I do not see him. All right, who do we have giving our area two report today?
President Franks, if we don't have our area two chair, I do know you had a report that was compiled by Susie. She could probably speak briefly to that.
Hi. So the area two update, we had some articles from Thomas Jefferson launching their solar development in Louisa. Let's see, Loudon had some education highlights, and Culpeper, thanks Kendall, I just didn't have it in front of me. And then we had an article from Culpeper about their soil testing program and recognizing one of their farms as the Grand Basin Award winner. We did have the Area 2 spring meeting, and that went really well. We had a good number in attendance. John, I know, has been just super busy with work, so I'm sure that's what's happened, why he's not here today. But we've also had a planning meeting for the spring meeting, which is in May, I believe May 12th, and you'll be getting more information about that in the coming week.
I think that's a really good summary. I'll work with John offline. I would add, Susie's maybe shy and humble about it. Loudon actually had a winner of the poster contest at the national level, and we're really excited about how much Virginia was spotlighted there. I will work with Will Littner. The other item to note here, also later in your agenda, President France, is that Area 2 is working on board nominations for the Soil and Water Board that we'll speak to.
Great. Thank you, Susie, for stepping up and going through that. Area 3 is Frank Johnson. I don't see him in the participant list. Frank, are you with us? I can tell you from being from Area 3 that the Area 3 spring meeting is going to be next week on April 20th in the afternoon. I have not seen an agenda recently, so I can't let you go ahead.
For you, actually, yesterday we had a prep meeting for our Area 3 effort next week. If you are interested in joining the Area 3 and it's not your area, you're more than welcome to attend, because there is an outside speaker, Barbara Ham, who will be talking on DEI topics. And we're really excited about that component of their agenda. I will work with Frank. I knew he had a conflict, but don't believe his vice chair, Mr. Pickett, has been able to join. You will be getting an Area 3 report. I know the staffer who helps compile it has been out of the office sick, so I couldn't make the deadline, but I anticipate in the next day or two something linked online and shared with Area 3 folks, and we'll make sure we take that to the Area 3 meeting too.
Thank you. And in case anybody's curious, D&I stands for diversity and inclusion. So I know that maybe not everyone is familiar with that acronym, but that is what it's called. And again, encourage you, if you're not in Area 3, you might want to pop on just to hear Barbara give a talk. I'm understanding that it's supposed to be a really good information session on some of the key points and interesting topics related to diversity and inclusion. All right, on to Area 4, and I see Gary, so I know Gary Boring is with us.
Okay, I'm glad to report to you. Y'all have a written report that covers most of the area and everything I wanted to say. Would like to highlight that we had a virtual Kids in Stream Field Day in Daniel Boone, I think. I've been impressed with the amount of virtual learning activities that's going on throughout the area. We're looking forward to the Avarathon. We have several districts that are going to participate in the virtual Avarathon. So all that is good to know and everything. I was hoping to have a video that Skyline had done in the report or a link to it, but we've not been able to get that up and functioning. It's part of the pipeline, Mountain Valley Pipeline Mitigation. One of their participants in the project did a interview with them, and that looks real good. I just regret that we've not been able to get it out. Hopefully we can get a link to that posted somewhere where we can see it and everybody.
Boring, I haven't given up on that. I've worked with Skyline. We should be able to get that link, and you'll probably see it highlighted on our Facebook page too.
Okay, that's great, because I've just been impressed with the amount of virtual activity that's going on, and that we had 50-something people participate in our Area 4 spring meeting. I thought it went real well with the help of Kendall and the association staff and partners. I was well pleased with the results of it. Again, we're looking forward to hopefully being able to have some in-person meeting this fall for the annual meeting. With that, without there's any questions, I'll turn it over to the next person.
Well, thank you very much, Gary. And yeah, if we can get that video, that would be great. I think that will highlight, some positive news about, the mitigation that we're able to undertake with some of the Mountain Valley Pipeline funds. And so definitely a good news story that we'd like to share with folks. All right, we'll move on to Area 5 if there's no question. And we have co-chairs there, Daphne Jameson and Bruce Pierce. I believe that Daphne is on the line, and she's going to give us the report for Area 5. Daphne, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thank you. We have already had our area meeting, and we had a very good program presented by Catherine Wilson, who's the director of Virginia Food Works. And that doesn't have anything to do with the slides. I thought I would do that first. This is an interesting production there. They used the Prince Edward Cannery, which has been there for a long, long time. And they rent it out to people who have grown local food products and want to use them to market. And it seems to be working very well. They still reserve part of the cannery for local people to go in and do theirs, but this is a separate part which meets all the standards that need to be met for selling certain things commercially that are grown on the farm. Nothing having to do with milk products, or, you know, those are a lot more difficult. Also, we, at our business meeting, we decided on our 2 nominees for the Virginia Soil and Water Conservation Board, Chuck Arneson, who is the incumbent, and Kevin Dunn are our nominees. Okay, now the slides that you have explain some of the things that the local districts are doing. All of the Area 5 districts did a lot of work during last year and during even this winter, during the pandemic, to work with our clients. And I was very impressed with that. And, you know, we have Mountain Valley Pipeline money coming into my district, which is Blue Ridge. And we have been, I think, the recipient of some of those monies that Don Wells was talking about going out the door. At least if that's not them, they will be coming up soon. Everything has been working well in our district, and we are so happy that you know, we were able to do all of this work, and you know, we continue to do that. So, and thank you very much for the help of the association in getting all this electronic stuff done, because some of us are not very good at doing that, and we certainly needed all the help that we could get from you all. I would also like to thank our staff. We had a lot of help from our district folks in you know, doing the records, and Deanna Farah in getting our guest to come to, you know, virtually to our area meeting, and the employees in both Bruce's district and in my district for working on you know, all the paperwork things that we needed to do.
I might add, you don't realize it's coming, Daphne. Our association has started a spotlight story that we send out all districts regularly. And the one that you should be seeing this week will actually highlight Area 5, Peter Francisco District, and all of the virtual education work they've been doing. So please be on the lookout for that. We've actually pulled a lot of these spotlight stories we've been doing from area reports that have been submitted to us. So thank you. It's one more way we can share the good work you're doing.
Thank you very much, and congratulations.
Thank you, Daphne. Really appreciate your report. I really appreciate Kendall scrolling through the reports. There's not a lot of nice information, cool pictures. I like seeing what everybody's been doing across the Commonwealth in all our districts.
Yeah, and when they put pictures in, it makes a lot more sense, right?
Right. I know. I can just skip to the pretty pictures. It's great. But you know, thank you for everybody who put. Oh, look at these kids. I like that.
Yeah, Kathy Smith had a good time with doing. She made it fun for them to do all their posters.
That's awesome. It's so nice sometimes to put like the face with the poster, because we don't get to see that very often. Who are these young people that are participating? So thank you for putting that into your report. All right. So are there any questions for Daphne? If not, we're just going to move on to our last report, which is Area 6, and I believe we have Franklin Zeta on the phone with us, and I will turn it over to him. Franklin?
I'll be handling that.
Granville. Yeah, you know what? That was in my notes, Granville. I totally missed that. This is what happens when I read the agenda and not my notes.
No problem. I really like that pictures. I'll bring that up to Area 6 about adding pictures our district, some of the things we're doing. Thank you very much. You had the report there, And tomorrow morning, we are having our, Appomattox River is having our cover crop tour of all the different species of cover crops that we do with test plots. And all I can say is planting is well underway in corn and rolling and spraying the cover crops here. Rye is actually getting out of hand. Some of the rye that we've been rolling now is almost 6 feet tall and putting it down as a good cover. And as you can see, the report is there, and that's about it. We're full steam ahead right now between these showers of rain, trying to get crops in. And that's basically it.
Thank you, Granville. Yeah, I do know that it's, no, it looks like it might be a kind of a wet spring. So hopefully everybody's going to be able to get their crops in the ground and keep them, you know, not too wet, so we don't lose crops this year. I know we've had a couple of summers where it's been really damp, and it really does take a toll. Anybody have any questions for Granville? All right. Thank you very much, all the areas, for providing your reports. Great to see all the good work that's happening, even in this odd time, that we're all able to continue moving forward and putting practices on the ground and working with our communities. All right, we're going to move right into our agency and partner reports. And first up, we have our Virginia Association of Conservation Districts employees report, and we have Corey Hoare on the line, and he is going to be giving us the update for our Employees Association. Corey, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everybody. And I just wanted to take a second to introduce myself this morning. I am Corey Hoare. I work for Virginia Dare Soil and Water, and I will be your new VACDE president. Started in January, so it's a pleasure to be here. Let's go. We'll just touch a little bit on this annual report. You guys, it's attached, so you can all see it. We had 194 VACDE members last year. You know, the whole year was, you know how it was. So a lot of virtual meetings, and, you know, we had to do that whole deal. So, you know, we did a lot of trainings with the association, and we really were appreciative of that partnership that we had going on there. We were able to still give out our 2020 Outstanding Conservation District Professional Award to Brandon Blevins, who's got a beautiful picture on there. So we were able to still take care of business. As you can see here, we've got all of our service awards that we presented at the virtual annual meeting. You know, everything from 5 to 35 years there. So we weren't able to do any scholarships due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and that kind of affected a lot of our fundraising, as well as, you know, helping out with the silent auction like we typically do. We still are operating our fundraising there. There are some of those 32-ounce Nalgene water bottles that are still for sale. So, you know, if you need to purchase one of those, you can contact your area representative, and they can get one to you. It's been kind of a odd year with fundraising, as you guys know. So, you know, we still have some of those floating around. I will go ahead and move right to my partner report. So the VACDE held our first quarterly meeting in February. Our agenda included review of our annual plan of work, officer duties, updates from committees, discussion on planning our annual employee training in August at Grays Mountain Lodge, which we're planning to do August 24th through 26th. We did an update for our Southeast Conservation District Employees Association mid-year planning meeting, which we held at the end of March into April 1st in Virginia Beach. We discussed the virtual trainings offered, as well as the December business meeting. Membership forms are electronic now for anyone that has not become a member that is interested. And we were sitting at 160 members currently when I turned this report in. Our next meeting is going to be held in May. We haven't decided a date yet, but that will most likely be a Zoom meeting as well. Like I stated, the Southeast meeting, we had our mid-year planning meeting the end of last month. We had about 12 folks from all over the Southeast that joined together in Virginia Beach. And, you know, it was very refreshing to be able to get together and, you know, hold a meeting together. So that was to plan for their annual conference, which is held in November at Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. Let's see. We visited Falls Cape State Park there as well with that group, which was cool. I mean, the weather was very it was windy and rainy, and I was expecting a lot of, you know, moaning from the group, but they were troopers. I did not hear one complaint. I mean, their feet were cold, so they bought $11 socks at the gift shop and it still didn't complain. So I was very proud. So the VACDE held our virtual winter business meeting on Tuesday, December 8th. Elections for the positions of president, vice president, area 2, 4, and 6 representatives took place. Annual service awards were given out. And we tried to make them as special. So we put together a little slideshow for those folks, you know, because typically we would have them come up to the group and they would get an applause. But, you know, this was a little bit different. So we still wanted to make it special for them. Let's see. Like I said, our fundraising committee is continuing to offer the opportunity to purchase custom VACDE Nalgene water bottles for $15 a piece, and they benefit the VACDE fundraising efforts. And there are still some available for anyone that needs. But yeah, you know, 2020 was a year like no other. We were proud of how we worked together with our partner agencies to make the best of the hand we were dealt. We weren't able to offer any scholarships or as trainings were converted to virtual formats, but we appreciated everything that the association was able to do to help us do that and continuing to do that. So that's my report, unless anybody has any questions.
Does anybody have any questions for Corey? I encourage folks to, you know, become a member of the Employees Association. I think it's a great opportunity to support your district staff and encourage your district staff also to become members. I look forward to attending the Graves Mountain Training in August. I think that's going to be a great opportunity for our employees to get together, and I would encourage your staff, if they feel comfortable, to definitely attend this year and participate. The last time we held it in person, it was great fun, and it was nice to see the employees and the staff just kind of relax, share, you know, stories, share information, and really it's a great networking for staff across the Commonwealth to get together. And so if you can, encourage your district staff and pay your membership dues to Employees Association. Thank you very much, Corey, and I wish you good luck this year. And we appreciate you stepping up as president of the Employee Association.
Yes, ma'am. Thanks for having me.
All right, well, we'll move on. Virginia Soil Health Coalition. This is a new topic. Virginia Soil and Health has been it's been very interesting, and we've had a lot of folks wanting to participate in improving our soil health across the Commonwealth. And today we are fortunate to have Mary Sketch with us. And she is going to talk to us about the Virginia Soil Health Coalition. Again, there are the newsletter as well as the first quarter's coalition meeting agenda. That information is linked within your packet. And I'm just going to go ahead and turn it over to Mary. I see that she's on the line with us. And welcome, Mary.
Great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here and talk some about the Virginia Soil Health Coalition. So I came on board as the coordinator in January, in early January, but a little background on the coalition before that to start with. So the Soil Health Coalition was started by Virginia NRCS in 2013, really as a way to educate and encourage soil health building practices and identify and collaborate with allies in the work. And so up until now, it's been a loose, informal group of organizations that support healthy soils, really based in the 4 principles of soil health that Virginia NRCS, or that NRCS put forward. And so included a list of 15 organizations that had submitted letters to NRCS in support of these principles, which included the Virginia Association of Soil and Water Conservation Districts. But as soil health and its co-benefits has really gained momentum among a diversity of partners and interests, there was desire to grow and expand the coalition and kind of rethink where it goes forward and the partners in the network and how it can be beneficial in providing that collective impact. So with support from the Chesapeake Bay Funders Network and National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, which brought me on board and is supporting a broader Virginia soil health strategy, a big piece of that work is this collaboration and coalition building. So I'm tasked with, increasing collaborative efforts across the state and communication and, using that to advance soil health practices on the ground. So over the last few months of being on board, we've kind of been thinking through where do we go from here? Where does the coalition go from here? And been working with many of the original partners to think through some of that, and come together around a common vision and mission, which really focuses on that communication and collaboration piece among the network of partners to support farmers, leverage resources, and advance strategies that increase soil health. So, the next big step that we're taking is the first quarterly open coalition meeting that will be April 26th. And the agenda is linked there. And I'll also throw into the chat the registration link so that it's right there. And I think this is going to be a really key moment to have everyone at the table and see where the coalition can move forward and be the most impactful, but support the work that's been happening for years that all the districts are doing, and I think something that I've talked with Kendall about and really want to ensure is that the coalition moving forward is supportive of the 47 districts and that there's opportunities for collaboration and that the way that we move forward is in alignment with the goals and work of the districts. So, I would leave it at that, other than saying that on the 26th, one of the key focuses there will be hearing from partners around the state on what's happening on the ground with soil health. So it's really an opportunity to kind of build that knowledge sharing and peer exchange from the get-go. And so I'd invite all of you to engage there. And then now would, invite if any of you have any thoughts on how the coalition can support the districts and work together, feel free and mention that now, or feel free and get in touch with me. I'll put my email as well in the chat, and would love to talk with any of you.
Mary, I really appreciate the update. I'm attached that April newsletter update too, and I do see a question or two in the chat box and want to make sure folks are aware. I'm really excited for you to speak with Mary. I'm serving on the steering committee for the coalition. We've had a lot of discussion. You might remember we passed a soil health policy statement this past December at our annual virtual meeting. So this really helps us take that next step. I have a question from one of our directors, Frida Cathcart. Do people have to be a member of the coalition to attend the meeting, or can we observe? So Mary, I can answer that, right? But go right ahead.
Yeah, no, and that's not at all. And I think we're at an important stage right now where we do have an initial steering committee, which Kendall mentioned she is on, representing the Association of Soil and Water Conservation Districts. But other than that, we're really at a phase right now to think through what that engagement looks like. And there's been that desire to have it be a broader network. So at the meeting, there will be an ask. There will to share your logo if you support our vision, mission, common ground principles, which will be shared there as well. But short answer is open to everyone. We want to move forward together on this.
Absolutely. If I can add to that, you're right. There are certainly a number of partners who have been at the table already. Daryl Glover noted DCR as one of those participants, but certainly we're at the beginning stages to really kick off. So I want districts at the table. While certainly I'm going to carry your voice there, you have some really great experience of what you're doing in the field to add to this conversation too. So I encourage you to take a look at the newsletter, join us later this month for the first coalition meeting. If you have questions about the agenda, now's really the time for us to talk with Mary about what you envision and want out of the coalition as it gets started.
definitely. And I threw my email in there and the link, and look forward to working with many of you and having it benefit everyone. So yeah, in the meantime, get in touch with me and looking forward to it.
Thank you, Mary. I do know that there are several directors that will be interested in attending. We've had some really healthy, engaging conversation over the last few months about soil health. And as Kendall mentioned, we had put forth a policy statement supporting the work of the coalition. So we will be taking that opportunity to participate. So thank you again for joining us today.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions for Mary or more comments about the Virginia Soil Health Coalition? Oh, look, we've already got people registered. There you go, Mary.
Awesome. The more at the table, the better.
All right, wonderful. Okay, so we're just going to keep moving down our partner reports. And next we have the Virginia Department of Agricultural and Consumer Services. And we're fortunate to have Daryl Marshall on today to give us their report. Daryl?
Thank you, Madam President. You'll see my report there, and we just wrapped up our program year the end of last month. This report just kind of summarizes the water quality complaints that we responded to over our last program year. Our previous program year, the numbers were down a little bit, which is really not a bad thing at all in regards to complaint response. But this past program year, which Corey mentioned in his report, was like no other. We did have an uptick in the complaints from the previous year, up 33% from 48 to 64 official complaints. That breakdown of the 64 complaints, we had 26 dismissed complaints. Complaints are dismissed for various reasons. Many of those are water quality issues that do occur, but they are addressed, in a timely fashion prior to the completion of our investigation process. So oftentimes, just because a complaint's dismissed doesn't mean that there wasn't a water quality issue addressed. Other types of dismissals include non-ag issues that we run across, situations where the individual is already engaged with the Soil and Water District or within RCS, and they have an active, cost share contract or equip contract, and they're currently addressing it. We also find out often the issue might fall under the jurisdiction of another agency, state or local. Periodically, the complainant contacts us and withdraws the complaint that they had filed. That does happen every now and then. We also, this past year, we did receive a number of anonymous complaints forwarded, through from DEQ through their online complaint system. And often we don't have enough information, received through that online system where we can accurately respond to it, whether it's the accurate description of the water quality issue they're alleging, or whether it's just location information is not accurate enough. But we did have a number of dismissals, because they were anonymous complaints that we weren't able to really follow up on. And there's no contact information where we can ask the complainant, hey, what can you provide more information on your concerns? So the rest of the breakdown includes 21 founded complaints. When a complaint is founded, we do find, means we've found water quality issues, and we're going to require a plan to address those water quality issues. We did have 15 unfounded complaints where no water quality issues were identified during our investigation. And we still have 2 complaints that are awaiting further investigation or case decisions. Should be wrapping those up here pretty soon. We did have a very eventful year in regards to enforcement action. Unfortunately, we did issue 5 civil penalties during that program year for violations of 3 different corrective orders. So that's something that we those are the first civil penalties that our program has ever encountered. So very, very busy on that front. One other thing I did want to mention too, I know a lot of budget talk has been going on, and for the fiscal year 2022, we did receive funding for 2 positions at VDAX, one in the Ag Stewardship Act program for just assisting with implementation and verification of the BNPs through our ASA program. The other is a position for auditing and verifying the contractor applicator reports for fertilizer applied to non-agricultural lands. That's a requirement of those individuals, contractor applicators who apply to more than 50 acres of non-ag lands each year have to submit reports to the agency of those applications and make sure that they're following all the standards and specifications for those applications. So we do have a position for verifying those, so that information can be utilized in the bay nutrient reductions and all of our tracking for that. So and Kendall, I did want to mention we are very excited. We're putting together our team for the Foundation Golf Tournament, and very much looking forward to getting out there and seeing everyone. So, but that concludes my report.
That's exciting news. I'm looking forward to seeing your team at the golf tournament. Does anybody have any questions for Daryl? Daryl, I would have a question. So do you have any inkling as to why this year was so busy in the area of violations or civil penalties? I mean, is there anything different that happened this year, or any kind of new root causes or weather events that may have created these issues, or is this just kind of a fluke year where people are in violation?
Well, all of the corrective orders were past corrective orders from 2-3 years ago. So they were issues that didn't just recently come up. They were violations of those orders from a while back. I will say that the weather probably did play quite a bit into some of those. Anytime there's an increase in precipitation, I mean, there's a higher level of management that needs to take place to prevent some of the other issues that we did run across that led to those civil penalties. So weather did definitely play into it. And I did notice in one of the area reports, one of the districts mentioned that they had an uptick in the number of complaints they assisted VDACs with, and it was due in part to the record rainfall they had received. So weather does play into it. As far as the civil penalties, I think it's just the maturation of the program, and the further we get along, the more founded complaints we have. So it's naturally just going to increase as far as the issues that we run across, and the I guess the likelihood that somebody might slip up and not adhere to whatever the measures are in their corrective orders. So.
Thank you for that information. And that really highlights, the importance of, outreach to our producers and talking to them about, especially in these years when we have a lot of precipitation, that it's good to reach out to them to make sure that, they understand what they can do and how we can help. But thank you very much, Daryl, for your report. Does anybody have any questions? All right, we're moving on to forestry, and we have Matt Rowe with us. I see him. And
yep.
Can you give us your report?
I don't have a report. I was slacking off this month and wasn't able to meet the deadline. So I'll just give you some of our updates. Daryl Marshall, as your program matures, you will probably find that the number of violations decreases what we found in our program. We had 4,700 logging operations last year for about 220,000 acres, and we did about 21,000 inspections on those logging jobs with our field positions. So we've been pretty active over the past year. COVID hasn't really slowed us down at all, except that we've had about a dozen or so people detailed to the Department of Emergency Management Services and providing logistical support for vaccinations and testing for the COVID action issues. I guess VDM can't figure out logistics as well as we can, so we've been helping them out. As far as our agency goes, again, we're pretty fortunate in the budget that we're going to be getting some additional positions that we've been looking for. A hardwood initiative coordinator for our new hardwood initiative statewide program, as well as funding for hardwood cost share program. We're going to be getting a watershed program manager and 3 supporting positions for that role. Expansion of our nursery operations at Augusta Forestry Center to produce additional hardwood seedlings for a riparian forest buffer program and support the WIP 3 process and the Bay program. We're getting some water quality improvement funding for BMP cost share for loggers and supporting our UCNF program, as well as our 50th anniversary of our reforestation of timberlands program is this year. State lands forest management plans. We manage all the state land forests across Virginia, and we're in the process now of updating those plans. A lot of the funding that comes to that program comes from harvesting timber on state lands, goes into a fund that we utilize to do projects on state lands. So some of those projects include things like riparian forest buffer plantings and forest management, restoration, that sort of thing. As far as BMPs go, we hit a 95% BMP implementation rate statewide last year. And in the Bay watershed, it was a little bit higher, 96%, so that's good. And we're getting ready to roll out our new website at the end of this month, date to be determined, but we've been working on this now for over a year, a new website for our agency that'll be much more interactive for folks, and hopefully that'll be active the end of April. We're in the testing process right now. And I'll take any questions. Actually, and one more thing, it is fire season. We've been pretty lucky. We've only had a couple of really hot days this year where we've had a lot of fire activity, but overall it's been pretty good. We've had a lot of intermittent rainfall events that have kind of kept things fairly quiet. But just to keep that in mind, got another month or so to go, or half a month to go until May. That's all I have. Appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Thank you, Matt. Does anybody have any questions? We appreciate you taking the time out of your day to participate in our meeting. Always good to see you. All right, so we're going to move on to the Virginia Department of Environmental Quality, and I believe we have Neil on the phone. I saw him on the participants list. Oh, he was, and then did he drop off?
Oh, he's still on.
Is he muted?
He might be muted, actually. Neil, I'm asking you to unmute through our controls, but cannot hear you.
There he goes. I see him going on and off. Neil, are you with us? We've got your report. If you're having some technical difficulties, we can skip you and then come back.
How about that?
Hey, there we go.
You know, when you join with the phone trying to help with the bandwidth, you have to unmute in about 3 different places. I apologize. So I did provide a written update. A lot of that in DEQ's information is some reflective of past activities, but I'll just hit some highlights. Regarding the Chesapeake Bay, the 2020 Bay TMDL WIP milestone progress report is available on DEQ's website. DEQ's website does continue to be populated with new information. We had a wholesale update, and we were a little slow in getting everything back up, but it's slowly getting there. And also 2020 annual progress model run is nearing completion, and that should be released by the Chesapeake Bay Program Office pretty soon, and that'll be available on their webpage. In the Office of Water Supply, regarding groundwater withdrawals, I'll skip down to that part. even though COVID-19 required some social distancing protocols, the groundwater and surface water withdrawal permit reviews, some of those were done with desktop compliance reviews, and some field inspections of well houses are underway, and about 30 of the 80 planned 2021 inspections have been completed. There are a few legislative actions related to groundwater withdrawal regulations that are in process. House Bill 1599, that was from the 2019 session, was the one that requires that the State Water Control Board adopt regulations providing incentives for the withdrawal of water from the superficial aquifer rather than the Yorktown Eastover on the in the Eastern Shore groundwater management area. And that proposed reg is currently in the executive review process and should go out for public comment in late spring or early summer. Senate Bill 673 was from the 2020 session, and that related to developing regulatory actions to conserve groundwater in confined aquifers within the groundwater management areas for potable needs, and to prohibit the construction of new wells for non-agricultural irrigation purposes except in the superficial aquifer. And that bill also included direction to develop a general permit for the regulation of irrigation withdrawals from the superficial aquifer greater than 300,000 gallons in any one month. A technical advisory committee has been formed, and that will begin meeting in May of this year. Skipping down to House Bill 542, the local and regional water supply planning amendments. The General Assembly made some significant changes to the statute related to the development of local and regional water supply plans. And those changes will be developed through regulatory advisory panel process. And DEQ had put out a notice of intended regulatory action. And that's expected to be published in early 2021, early this year. So skipping on down further into the Office of Watershed and Local Government Assistance Programs. First of all, for those of you who may have been interacting with Kelly Meadows, he will be leaving DEQ to take another position. So when we have a different contact there, we'll let you know. But in the meantime, you can still use that email. Wanted to note that regarding awarding funding to grantees for water quality funds, on February 8th of this year, DEQ issued a notice of intent to award approximately $1.9 million in federal Section 319H funding to 7 non-point source implementation projects, and there were several districts that were among those selected projects. And there's a link there for more information on that. Moving on down to the Office of Land Application Programs, which is my office and the one about which I know the most. I've been speaking to you over the last year or so about reissuance of the BPA regulation for poultry waste management. That regulatory process did end, and the existing general permit coverage had been administratively continued until that new general permit was effective, and it did take effect on February 17th of this year. There are some new requirements for poultry growers that include annual reporting of poultry waste transfers, and by both poultry growers as well as end users of transferred litter. Those reporting requirements for end users are going to be phased in and won't start this year. We are developing an online tool to assist growers as well as end users with submitting those reports through DEQ's website, and that development is underway. And that tool should be available by the end of the summer, but hopefully definitely by the fall of this year. If you want to see a full copy of text of that regulation and all the different changes that were made, you can go to the town hall website, and the link is there. And then skipping on down to the Office of Stormwater Management, the third bullet, the House Bill 1310 in the 2020 General Assembly required DEQ to establish a process that requires any person that receives coverage under the General Virginia Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permit for discharges of stormwater from construction activities who will be transporting fill off-site to disclose to DEQ the source of that fill to be disposed of, the contents of that fill, and the location of the disposal. DEQ is then required to disclose that information to every locality where the fill will be disposed. This was put into the regulation through a final exempt process, and that was effective November 25th and was effective January 1st of this year. And then House Bill 882 in the 2020 session required the State Water Control Board to adopt regulations for the use of proprietary best management practices, also known as manufactured treatment devices, only if another state, regional, or national certification program had verified and certified those manufactured treatment devices, their nutrient or sediment removal effectiveness. And a public notice to update the guidance regarding MTDs is proposed for this spring, and that guidance memo is available on the town hall site. And then finally, in the Clean Water Financing and Assistance Program, there were some guideline updates that took effect in February of this year. And rather than go into those details, I'll just note that if you contact Lars Bolton in DEQ's Office of Clean Water Financing, he can give you some more information. And there is some application status updates there in the table. So that is my report, and I'll take any questions if anyone has them.
Great, thank you, Neil. Definitely a lot of really good information in your report. Does anyone have any questions?
Neil, a question for you with regard to the stormwater management House bill that 1310, that's your third bullet point.
Yes, sir.
Is what's different about that than the regulation that was already in place for doing that?
I'm going to take your question, and let's see who's. Forgive me for my Zoom skills. Who's asking that question?
Richard Chafin. I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. I'll get one of the folks in the program to contact you and explain that because I don't know the details.
I appreciate it, Neil.
Madam Chairman, this is Kathy Clark from Northern Neck Soil and Water. I don't have a question for Neil, more of a comment. And I think this possibly is a good opportunity to share this information. A couple of months ago, I was able to participate in a unified command group response to a pollution episode that had happened locally. I was contacted by one of our citizens, and the accident involved a cooking oil spill occurred in an adjacent county, but they reached out to us because they were having trouble sort of like communicating with DEQ and EPA about the environmental aspects of the cleanup. And so I personally participated as a friend to the individual. And in doing so, I was allowed as a participant in that unified command group and went out, participated in several Zoom meetings, and went out on site and actually had an opportunity to network with EPA folks such as Don McLaughlin, folks from DEQ, Renee McKinnon, John Geese, and Steve Tubman. And we were able to work together. I was able to see how this process worked from behind the scenes. And in our follow-up, I did allow the comment or submit the comment that I thought that SWCDs could potentially play and serve as an important partner in future pollution response scenarios. There's a lot of moving pieces in that, but I think in most areas, the soil and water districts would be a great resource, as we know the people, we know the land, and we know the local environmental needs as well. So Neil, I just put that out with you. I know that's not under your purview, but definitely a comment and a way that I see that districts could be more involved moving forward.
Thanks for that, Kathy. I'll mention this to John Geezy. He and I work together on a pretty regular basis. I certainly agree with you. I've seen that be the case with some of the pollution response complaints that come in that we deal with regarding agriculture. And you're exactly right that there are a lot of moving parts, because a lot of times the PREP database is the receiving point for issues that would be addressed by any number of DEQ programs and officers and staff. And so usually we have to sort through that to figure out exactly whether it's a permitted activity or a non-permitted activity, and certainly the resources that and the local contacts that the districts provide can often be helpful there. So thanks for that.
Yes, Kathy, thanks for that comment. It's always been a real struggle how districts can support DEQ, and most of that has to do with the perception of being a regulator, right? And so that's something that, the districts, at least my district, has talked about and struggled with is how do we work with DEQ to help these producers and gain their confidence that, we're not out there necessarily as the enforcers, but more of, a technical assistance and helping navigate some of those challenges. So that's a really great example, Kathy, of how districts can be involved and work in partnership with DEQ to assist our community. Thank you very much. Does anybody else have any questions for Neil before we move on? And Frida has a comment in the chat box in case anybody's interested there. All right, thanks, Frida. Is that I guess that's a comment for Neil then?
I'm sorry, I was typing my thing where I couldn't hear what was speaking, but it sounded like somebody was working with a group about addressing that with the DEQ. So, I mean, I'm happy to connect with Neil. It was a woman's voice that was saying that, and I don't know whose name that was, but I'd just like to be connected with whoever is addressing these type of issues, because there seems like there's some cracks or like better communication support efforts. I'd like to participate in that, however that's forming. So.
Yeah, and that was Kathy Clark, and I think she was talking about a particular pollution incident spill in her district area. So, all right. So you can always happy to reach out to her, get some information.
Okay.
All right, we're going to move on to our next report, which is Virginia Cooperative Extension. I believe we have Dan Gork on the line with us today. I saw him, and his report is linked to your packet. Dan, I'll turn it over to you.
Hi, good morning and thank you. Good to see everybody, and my goodness, congratulations on your tremendous success in the General Assembly here recently. Well done. So just tried to pick out a few items that may be of general interest to share with the group. I'll go ahead and start by mentioning that good news, 4-H camps are taking place this summer. This is the week-long junior 4-H camp. Regrettably, these were canceled last summer for obvious reasons, but they are on this summer with, of course, appropriate procedures and guidance in place to ensure the safety and enjoyment of all. You all have heard past updates regarding the Chesapeake Bay, Virginia Farm Voluntary Agricultural Best Management Practices Inventory Project that's led out of the Deputy or the Secretary, excuse me, of Natural Resources Office by Deputy Secretary Jennings and the Multi-Agency Task Force. That survey is now closed. It was an all hands on deck effort to encourage producers to complete the survey and assist them with that process. Approximately 700 producers representing over 242,000 acres of land in the Chesapeake Bay watershed, which, if I recall correctly, is about 10%, did complete the survey. And now we move into the deduplication process of the data in partnership with DCR. Recall that this was for voluntary practices, and that effort is simply to look to ensure that there are not practices included in the survey for which cost share is being received. I'd like to thank Appomattox River, Chowan Basin, and Lake Country SWCD for supporting the Desktop Farm Day effort that our extension agent, Mike Parrish there in Dinwiddie County, put together. This was a substitute, if you will, for on-site farm visit, school field days, visiting farms, I should say. Ag days is how they're often referenced. And Mike's worked very hard on this, and we appreciate the partnership of soil and water conservation districts in supporting that effort. So check it out. There are numerous videos there introducing youth to variety aspects of agriculture and farming, and teachers have been responding with very positive comments to it thus far. Across the state, our extension agents are working as a bridge between the Virginia Department of Health and agricultural producers, loggers, and so forth to help get information about vaccination opportunities into the hands of those clients. We are not, of course, telling them what to think about the vaccine or what have you, but simply making sure that they have the information and they are able to make their own educated decision about whether that's something that they would like to pursue or not, and then that they're aware of upcoming vaccination opportunities that they can participate in. And in some cases, the agents are also helping Virginia Department of Health identify sites where vaccinations can be administered, and these would be sites that are, familiar to producers and that they're comfortable with. You can imagine a livestock market or an ag supply, business or something of that nature, since producers don't have employers, quote unquote, per se, that they could come to, the employer's facility like Dominion or, Radford University or something. But anyway, a lot of good work taking place there, and really pleased to help inform and support those efforts. We do have a team that's submitting a grant that will be, if funded, it will build our capacity to conduct community educational efforts around the efficacy of vaccines and so forth for general audiences. You may have seen a survey come out from our Department of Ag and Applied Economics faculty who are doing a follow-up study on the economic impact of the pandemic on Virginia farms and agribusinesses. There was a preliminary study around this time last year, and this is the follow-up effort. Summary report forthcoming. I did pick out a couple of other program areas, as I want to do, just to give an introduction to some of the other things taking place. This time I pulled out our food preservation program. We had a lot of success in that last year, with over 8,000 people attending one or more virtual canning, freezing, and dehydration classes. We also have, I'm going to skip the next bullet and go down to let's see, the last one here at the bottom of the screen, which is 15 Minutes in the Forest educational series. Check these out online. I just realized I did not include the link there, but this was an effort by our extension foresters across the state to disseminate educational information about a wide variety of forestry and natural resources related topics. And we've got some statistics and metrics there. If you're interested in some of those pieces of data. One of the bullets that I just did skip was that we had starting April 25th, we have a grant funded position going into far Southwest Virginia to help hopefully expand agricultural business opportunities there. That position is funded by Go Virginia and then also the Virginia Tobacco Commission. I'll start to wrap up now, but I do like to include just to help illustrate the breadth of extension programming. I pull from a report that Cindy Marston, who's up in our Northern District, retired district director, now working as a program assistant, essentially. One of the things that she does is maintains a calendar of educational programming taking place for external audiences and then internal audiences. And while she doesn't receive, everything provided by the agents, I think what she does share and publish weekly provides a decent cross section of the types of programming that we're engaged in at any particular time. So let's see, I do have a question from Ricky Rash. I think that's tongue in cheek in all likelihood around ivermectin. So we have, apparently the social media discussion is rampant around the use of ivermectin to help prevent COVID. And we do not recommend the taking of ivermectin to prevent COVID. If you are curious to see the nature of this discussion, if you just Google that, I see some folks smiling, but this is a serious matter. And there are now camps on both sides of the ivermectin discussion, and you will see a group of scientists who have published, that they support it. You'll see newspaper articles from different periodicals around the country that talk about physicians prescribing it. Extension's stance is that we support the Center for Disease Control and the NIH guidance. And as of right now, that guidance is still not formally recommending ivermectin for COVID management purposes. But we really cannot get in between an individual and their medical provider. So this, we see this in some ways as a conversation between a citizen and their physician. So Ricky, we are not recommending ivermectin for that purpose.
Thanks, Dan, for taking on that question. Thanks, Ricky, for putting Dan in a position where he had to take on that question. Gosh, anything else, Dan?
Well, I appreciate your time. I'll go ahead and stop there in the interest of time, and happy to field other questions. And yeah, it's all good. I mean, that's a real question that Ricky asked, and I don't have any problem addressing that. That's a source of concern, and our agents have contacted me a couple of times over the months saying, there's just a lot of traffic about ivermectin among my clientele, and I'm getting questions, what do we tell them? So I appreciate, Ricky, you asking that question, because you all may deal with that as well. Now I'm going to answer one question that was not asked, but this is in the event that Soil and Water is also getting similar types of questions, and I'm going to tell you how VCE is handling it right now. But I'm also going to mention to you that what I'm about to say has not officially been sent to our agents yet. So I'm usually reluctant to share information publicly that our own staff have not heard yet. But they will very soon through an email from our director. So I feel like the timing is acceptable, but just be respectful of where I'm at with the timing of this news. But so marijuana, of course, you all are familiar with the legislation and the possession allowance is starting on July 1, and the ability of folks to grow up to 4 plants. So citizens see that information, they get excited. Our offices are already starting to receive calls from people seeking production advice for marijuana. Where we stand organizationally as of today is that because marijuana is still a federally controlled substance and Virginia Cooperative Extension receives federal funds, we will not be providing production advice on marijuana at this time. Now, of course, the federal status of that could change. But as of today, that's the circumstance, and we'll be disseminating that news to our own faculty here fairly soon through a director's update. So, Kendall, just a heads up that if your field staff also happen to receive these types of questions, I know Soil and Water also receives federal funds, and I'm not trying to tell you all how to handle it, but that's where VCE stands right now. And we are reaching out to extension systems in other states who have already legalized marijuana to get some additional sense into what their approaches are and what their practices are. But right now, Colorado has said this is how we've approached it, and it's essentially the same as what I just described. That said, if the time does come, we have learned a lot about growing hemp for CBD and these types of things that we think we could extrapolate to the marijuana situation. But I did think that was relevant to editorialize about that. And obviously there's a lot of enthusiasm in some circles around this particular topic. So thank you all for your time, and I hope you have a great rest of your meeting. I appreciate being part of it as always.
Of course. Dan, I really appreciate that information. It's one that I've actually already gotten from a district yesterday. So I had intentions to do a little bit of sleuthing to determine I didn't know what type of guidance to offer districts. Knowing how extension will be handling it is really helpful, because you're right. I think that's going to be a growing ask of field staff moving forward. And I really do want to say kudos and huge thank you for all the leadership you did on the base survey and working with our districts and partners to really try our best in terms of survey response. I still think there's some value in that data, and I look forward to working with you and that group as we get in the weeds of it a bit more now that the survey is closed.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Dave.
thank you, Kendall. And I'll just, the folks on the call know this already, but I want to put in a plug for Kendall. Y'all recognize she is a real star, and I want to point out an example. So that website that Soil and Water agreed to host for the survey initiative, Kendall built that basically with information provided by myself and the task force, but built that in a matter of days. The timeline was really tight between when the information was finalized, when we were able to train field staff, when it was disseminated to the public. Ms. Jennings wanted to stay on, track with the project timeline, understandably so. And I think the website is really professional. It's a high quality product. If you want to compare, go look at Penn State's, and I'm not ripping on Penn State, but you can look at the website that they developed for the project that this one is based on, And, I think from a standpoint of just professionalism and presentation and comprehensiveness, the design work that Kendall did on that was really impressive in a very short period of time. So I just want to put in a plug for her, and of course the work that the Soil and Water Conservation Districts did, and all the partners did to try to help disseminate the survey to producers and help answer their questions in the process. So it's been a big project. Again, it's been an all hands on deck effort, and DEQ's involved, DCR. Refer to the report, of course, for the complete listing of partners. There are 2 partners on there who withdrew their names from recognition because of the concern about what the connotation would be to the producers. But I want to make sure to recognize them. EPA, DEQ, also part of the process, important contributors. But because of the regulatory overtones, Giannina, right? Did I pronounce that right? Help me out.
Yeah, it's Janina. So
Janina.
But Russ is laughing. Yeah, it's Janina. It's
Yeah,
okay.
I appreciate that. But point being, those partners, I want to make sure we recognize, even though they were not publicly recognized, because they concerned about how the regulatory connotation would be received by producers, they withdrew from having their names publicly recognized and associated with the project. So anyway, appreciate what y'all do and enjoy working with you in our units. Appreciate the relationship on the local level. So hope you all have a good rest of your meeting. I'll be here for the duration if other questions arise. Thanks.
Thanks, Dan. I really appreciate your comments, especially towards the Kendall and our staff, as well as others. And again, the EPA DQ distinction is very interesting, as we talked about earlier. How do districts work in coordination with those regulatory agencies to help put practices on the ground and maintain the technical assistant aspect. And also, I appreciate the information about the marijuana. I know as a federal government employee, just because the state says it's okay doesn't mean that it's okay for everybody. So I do really appreciate that information, and I do respect, and I hope others respect that information is coming out a little bit ahead of the announcement to your cooperative extension staff. So any other questions for Dan? Comments? All right, thanks, Dan. I really appreciate it. Next on our agenda is the Chesapeake Bay Commission, and I do not believe that Adrian joined us while we've been talking. So I don't have much to give you there for the Chesapeake Bay Commission. I would, as Kendall's pointing out on your screen, the 40th anniversary annual report is linked to your packet, as well as their FY22 federal appropriations request. So you can find that linked, and she has on the screen the budget request as it's presented. I'm not sure if anybody has any comments, or Kendall, if you wanted to talk to anything specifically regarding the Chesapeake Bay Commission.
We've certainly been working with the Bay Commission members on the Virginia legislative side. They helped support a number of our issues this past session, but I'll leave it at that and happy to talk offline with anyone who wants to get into the weeds of this.
Right, Chesapeake Bay Commission, also a really great partner that we work with during our legislative sessions. And so we'll move on. Natural Resources Conservation Service. Unfortunately, Dr. Martinez had to pop off because he had other commitments, but we have with us David Chris. He is the Assistant State Conservationist for Operations, and I believe he's going to give us our NRCS update, and the report is linked in your agenda.
Yes, thank you. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay, great. Yes, and Dr. Martinez was called away. He got on earlier and had to get off. Some other commitments came up. And the report is here, and it's got quite a bit of information. I just like to highlight a number of things. We have continued our recruitment efforts at Virginia NRCS. We should be bringing on about 22 new employees to the team. All these jobs are listed and announced through USA Jobs. As far as program deadlines, our two largest programs, environmental quality incentive is EQIP, and it's the ranking deadline is April 23rd. We have currently have about 1,200 applications, and this is an increase of about 17% compared to last year. And the CSP, Conservation Stewardship Program, the application deadline is April 30th. Our for the State Technical Committee meeting, its upcoming meeting is going to be scheduled for May 27th. We are working and coordinating with the Virginia Department of Wildlife Resources on a FY21 launch, targeting the Southeast. This is a voluntary public access to habitat incentive program that we're working on. The CIG, this program has got, NRCS has $300,000 for soil health projects. For the dam rehab, we've got the one planning project that we've got going on at Beaver Creek 1, that's in Albemarle County, and this is on schedule. And we closed out the Upper North River 77 in Augusta County. We've got MOU with that was signed with between NRCS and DCR. This is data sharing, and we're working closely with DCR right now to finalize the process and to launch our pilot. We're also restarting to work with the memorandum of agreement between NRCS and the Saltwater Conservation Districts. And this is we did a pilot with a couple of the districts, 4 districts, the Shenandoah, Evergreen, Piedmont, and Eastern Shore. We had the district managers and our district conservationists together. And again, just an effort to reach out and get some more comments and edits on the Virginia template that will be used, and that will be rolled out hopefully in the middle or to the end of May for those agreements. Let's see, we had NRCS presented a virtual award presentation for the 2020 Outstanding Individual Volunteer Award recipient. This is Keith Thomas. This was on March 11th, and it was with the Harrisonburg office. And Megan, Dull, from the Shenandoah was in attendance. And also April 19th, there was a virtual meeting to introduce the Saltwater Conservation District staff and directors to the NRCS area volunteer coordinators and outline the many benefits in participating in the Earth Team program. And just as far as tracking hours and recognize participants. And Barbara Bowen wanted to make a comment that special thanks to Bonnie Mall with the district with the association for coordinating this activity. That worked out real well. Unless there's some other questions, there's quite a bit of information in the report, and I hope everybody gets a chance to look at it. If there's any questions, you can ask me now, or you can get in touch with me later. Thanks.
Thank you, David. Does anybody have any questions? Comments? We really appreciate you putting together your report. Bonnie has put a comment in the chat box, I believe. We've got a couple of comments, actually. There you go. If you'd like to attend the Earth Team webinar, that it's on April 19th at 10 a.m. and there's a link to register in your chat box. All right. Thank you again. We really appreciate the information that is presented here and the in-depth explanations and information in your report.
Note also, Janina, if you don't mind, we've really appreciated the stronger partnership with NRCS and the many opportunities we've found ways to partner in recent. We've talked with them about the conservation planning updates, the MOU effort that Mr. Chris talked about. We've been involved in that meeting too. As well as Dr. Martinez has shared in some of the area meetings, the data sharing agreement, but really also want to give huge kudos to some of your staff. Chris Lawrence has been phenomenal to work with and has really stepped up in helping us offer some trainings in a virtual setting. We had over 160 folks just last week on a nutrient management one that could not have been done with some of NRCS support. So a big thank you. And I encourage you, just like that Earth Team one, Bonnie said, to plug into some of those virtual trainings if you have not.
Thanks, Kendall.
All right. Well, great. Thank you. So we're moving on to our last report here. For the sake of time, we're just going to skip it. No, I'm just teasing. It's still a joke, you guys.
You just made Daryl very happy.
I know, I bet, Russ. Anyway, the Virginia Soil and Water Board and the Department of Conservation and Recreation report, and we have Russ Baxter and Daryl Glover with us today. Russ, I'll toss it to you first.
That's easy because I'll toss it right back over to Daryl, and he has a report prepared, and I may add a few comments at the end if that's all right, Madam President.
That's perfect. Daryl, go ahead. Give it to you. Out from Croatia.
All right, thank you. I see what a great job Russ has. All right, I'm going to have video on and off because I'm going to be showing you a map in a little bit as we talk about the outreach project, but so that you don't just have to watch me read, I'm going to turn the video off for a minute. With regards to the agricultural BMP surveys, Dan Gerlich already covered the first paragraph about the voluntary BMP farmer survey, so I'll jump down to the tillage residue survey, which we were planning to do this fiscal year, but because of concerns from districts about compliance with COVID-19 safety protocols and insufficient time to obtain landowner permission for access to their properties before the survey would need to be conducted, it has been postponed. As a result, the cover crop survey, which was planned for next fiscal year for this winter, is also likely to be delayed. It's a slim possibility we may be able to do both next year, but that's going to depend upon funding. We have had conversation, we have notified EPA that this delay was necessary and they understand the need for it. NRCS and DCR, as has been mentioned by Mr. Chris, we have entered into the data sharing agreement. This involves voluntary participation by federally funded producers who are participating in NRCS programs such as EQIP for any one of 11 specific conservation practices that are either at or beyond their expected lifespans. So the way it would work is NRCS right now is pulling together those specific producers for those specific practices who have that lifespan condition met. And once we have that together, as David Chris referenced, we're going to be determining where to conduct a pilot project. So we don't know where yet that's going to be taking place. It's going to depend upon where these producers are located. We have also been working with the Department of Environmental Quality and the EPA to obtain a supplemental Chesapeake Bay grant with which we will be able to contract with soil and water conservation districts to contact the participants who give us this written permission to request to make field visits to verify that these practices are still in place and functioning. What we're going to ask districts to do is to offer producers either a state voluntary BMP authorization form, a resource management application form, or state cost share via conservation, continuing conservation initiative or CCI for BMP maintenance if that's needed. Districts may also identify any new resource concerns and then follow up with those participants for potential conservation solutions and a revised conservation plan. For those practices that are still in place and functioning, although outside of their normal lifespan, this will be recorded in the DCR Conservation Applicating Suite, or the Ag BMP Tracking System as it was formerly called, and they will receive a renewed credit duration lifespan within the Chesapeake Bay model. This data will be shared with NRCS via the department after field reviews are complete so that NRCS can evaluate the effectiveness of those practices at achieving the goals and solving resource concerns as set forth in their conservation plans. Bay Bill update. As required by the Bay Bill, which passed a year ago, the department has developed and the Virginia Soil and Water Conservation Board has adopted an office method for determining perennial streams. Reminder that this method is to be used for determining where stream exclusion within the Bay watershed should take place. The Agricultural Best Management Practice Technical Advisory Committee has recommended portable livestock stream exclusion fencing BMP specification that will be voted on by the board at their upcoming meeting next week on April the 21st. And if approved, will become available in July. One other note about the perennial stream method is we have been in conversation with GeoDecisions, who is our primary contractor for our conservation application suite. And we received public comments about the method with regards to karst. And in conversations with GeoDecisions, that's going to complicate things a little bit with regards to mapping these areas. And so it's going to take GeoDecisions some additional time. We have identified the funding to contract them to do this. but it's going to take them some additional time to map these areas. And so you should be expecting that around this time, between this time and June of next year, 2022, that mapping will be completed and available. The board has also approved up to $2 million for $260,000 in technical assistance from unobligated funds returned by districts to the department to fund the new small herd initiative that will also take effect this July. Agricultural producers and designated districts, and I'm going to give you that list of districts because that's also being conducted as a pilot. Those districts are Culpeper, John Marshall, Lord Fairfax, Loudoun, Peter Francisco, the Bay portion of Piedmont District, and Thomas Jefferson District. So that's the pilot area. We have $260,000 in technical assistance and $2 million for cost share assistance for those districts. This is going to be for agricultural producers who own at least 20, but no more than 35 head of cattle to qualify. It does not matter the age or gender of those head of cattle. It's just a total count. Splitting of herds will not be allowed. Qualified participants can receive up to $25,000 non-competitively on a first-come, first-served basis for any livestock stream exclusion practice that will be included within the FY22 cost share manual, which the Soil and Water Board will also vote on next week. Participants in small herd will not be impacted with regards to their annual VAX participant cap, which is currently $100,000. So if they qualify for small herd, they can get up to $25,000 non-competitively to get that stream exclusion installed. And they can then apply competitively along with everyone else for a regular cost share for up to that currently $100,000 cap. And I'll come back to that in a moment. Ag BMP Technical Advisory Committee recently relaxed gathering limits for COVID-19 safety protocols, which took effect on April the 1st, will enable the Ag BMP TAC to hold in-person subcommittee meetings this summer. It is yet to be determined whether in-person full TAC meetings can be held this calendar year. 22 suggestions for potential changes to the VAX program have been deferred last year until in-person subcommittee meetings can resume. So all of those will come forward once the in-person subcommittee meetings begin later this year. 14 suggestions were tabled and 12 others have been advanced by the department to the board for their consideration, which is currently underway. In recent years, the program has introduced higher participant caps, implemented several additional stream exclusion options, currently from 4 to 14, plus the 15th will be the portable stream fencing that's under consideration now. Introduced the inclusion of buffer payments for wide buffers, developed a new suite of continuing conservation initiative BMP maintenance payments, expanded animal waste specifications with 4 new ones, including one for livestock and confinement for the first time, increased cover crop cost share rates, added new specialty cover crop options, and provided a variety of other new VAX specifications for nutrient management and vegetative cover. With regards to what the board is considering for next year, for this July, for fiscal year 2022, the Soil and Water Board is currently reviewing for approval the legislatively mandated portable stream fencing specification, which we are calling WP2P. The raising of annual participant caps again from $100,000 to $150,000. The loosening of VAX eligibility requirements, specifically reducing from 5 years of farming to 3 years of farming on the land offered in the application, the expansion of the SL7 extension of watering system practice, and revision to cover crop planting dates. Basically, in summary, we're looking to extend cover crop planting dates by an average of 15 days in several of the geographic provinces within the state. If these items are approved by the board next week, then the VAX program will have more options and more flexibility for conservation-minded farmers than ever before, putting them in a better position to succeed in meeting water quality goals, including the WIP 2025 goals. Conservation planning certification. In February, the department provided Virginia Agricultural BMP and cost share course as part of the conservation planning certification program. At that time, 16 attendees received the training that provided an introduction, overview, and operational information about VAX and the VAX manual. So these are new entries into the DCR conservation planning certification curriculum. In January, the department offered the DCR conservation planning course. It was attended by 41 people from a number of districts. This was the final course for most of those participants in the DCR conservation planning certification program that they needed before developing their own conservation plan for on-site review by the department. Providing conservation plans are submitted in time, the department's conservation planning and training coordinator will be traveling throughout Virginia to review the nearly 30 district staff seeking a field review of their conservation plan in order to complete the DCR conservation planning certification. I would note that submission of those conservation plans by a number of your staffs has been slow. And we really need to get them in so that we can get this field tour scheduled, because what we're trying to do to protect our own employee is we're looking for Carl Thielgoing to make one round trip to all of the areas so that he can conduct these in-field verifications or compliance reviews of the conservation plans. And then he can come back to Richmond and not need to do it again. So please, if any of your staff are in that group, and you can contact Carl Thielgoing if you want to know specifically who I'm referring to, then we can get them scheduled and get them reviewed, and then they can be fully DCR conservation planning certified. FY23 district budget template. Kendall mentioned this, the training, upcoming training on May 4th, but just want to let you all know that the budget template did go through the peer review committee, which is made up of one representative from each of the 6 district association areas. And they have proposed 2 updates to the template. One update involves projections of future administrative support needs. The other will capture staff demand relating to dam rehabilitation projects. We did solicit comments from districts before it went to the board, and the board approved the template back at their March 16th meeting. So that template spreadsheet instructions will be sent to all districts soon. You may even already have it. And Kendall mentioned the training on May 4th, which will be virtual. And then we will be looking for each district to complete and submit their budget template for FY23 to the department by July the 15th. Small farm outreach project. And what I'm going to do now, Kendall, is I'm going to start video and share screen, because I want you all to have a good look at this map. The FY22 state budget includes $250,000 for an outreach project by Virginia State University Small Farm Outreach Program. The purpose of this 2-year project is to encourage greater participation by farmers of color in cost share and other department-funded programs. This project will be conducted in 52 counties, which you can see here on the map. The ones that are in color are the ones that are included in both the Chesapeake Bay and Southern Rivers watersheds. The project will involve training of VSU SFOP staff on department programs in May, and that date has been set for them, followed by preparation and distribution of potentially even multilingual outreach materials in parts of the state, 16 outreach workshops over the next 2 years, and a number of field days with groups of farmers, as well as up to 300 on-farm visits for one-on-one outreach. This project is just one of the efforts that the department will be implementing to meet the provisions of WIP Task 14. This WIP Task 14 is an outgrowth of a joint letter of agreement between the Virginia Secretaries of Natural Resources, Agriculture and Forestry, education, and the president of the Virginia Association of Soil and Water Conservation Districts back on November 9th of 2020. And it commits several state agencies and the association to work collaboratively, primarily on training, outreach, and recognition to, quote, advance the goals of the Chesapeake Bay WIP and the ability of agricultural producers to achieve production needs with assistance through better coordination and delivery of agricultural programs, unquote. To help implement this project, the department seeks the support of the association and the individual soil and water conservation district boards within the project area you see on the map, as well as the assistance of the Virginia Conservation District Employee Association in working with the department to coordinate having a local district staff person attend as many of these outreach events and farm visits as feasible. Department staff will also attend many of these outreach events. Virginia State University Small Farm Outreach Program will develop a schedule covering several months of the project at a time, which the department will share with both the employee association and those districts where events will be taking place. And I got information from our IT manager this morning that we're going to attempt to do this via Microsoft Teams. So you'll be getting additional email about that shortly. Okay. Shoreline Erosion Advisory Service, or SEAS, back on December 2nd, 2020, during the Virginia Conservation Assistance Program webinar training hosted by the association, the department's SEAS staff were honored to receive the 2020 VCAP Community Partner Award. The Northern Neck Soil and Water Conservation District nominated us for this award. As you obviously know very well, VCAP being one of your programs, is a residential cost share program that provides financial assistance to property owners. One of the VCAP eligible BMPs in the Chesapeake Bay watershed is Living Shorelines. The department SEAS staff support the coastal districts by providing technical assistance in the proper siting, selection, design, installation, and maintenance of living shorelines. This was the inaugural year for this VCAP award, created so that districts might celebrate a partner who assists property owners and districts in implementing VCAP projects. SEAS staff also served on the VCAP Technical Advisory Committee, and I just want to express the CR's appreciation and the division's appreciation for receiving this award on behalf of our staff. Staffing and recruitment. The division has promoted Marissa Rowland to the Conservation District Coordinator position in our Tappahannock office. Anita Tuttle has been hired as our new Urban Nutrient Management Program Coordinator, and Cornell Francis is our Diversity Outreach Intern for this fiscal year. Interviews for our vacant business manager position will be conducted soon. And lastly, I want to let everybody know, and this is an update from the written report that you have that I've received during this meeting. The Christiansburg office will be moving to Radford in October of this year, where it will be co-located with the local health department. Also, the Warrington office will soon combine office space with John Marshall Soil and Water Conservation District. That concludes my report. Are there any questions?
Anybody have any questions for Daryl? Russ, did you have something you were going to add to the?
Actually, just a couple of things. I think you all have done a good job over the area meetings in this board. Everybody's pretty much up to date on some of the things Clyde talked about regarding the General Assembly and the success held this year. It's just another interesting note. The quarterly revenue report came out yesterday that the governor releases, and although there's some accounting little issues with it, revenues are up over 18% over projected for the year. And so there is some talk now that there will be a surplus of some size, which is always good for us because 10% of any surplus goes into the Water Quality Improvement Fund. And so that's an opportunity, obviously, for the work that we do together. The other thing that was kind of interesting in the revenue report is, we get a portion of the recordation fee that's on wills and deeds and all these other sorts of things. It was up this year over last, or this March over last March, by almost 60%. So I think Daryl will correct me if I'm wrong, but we've never, at least in the last few years, met the $10 million that we're authorized to use from that source. But things are really rocking and rolling in the real estate market. And so money is going into that, or is being collected through that tax. And hopefully that's to our benefit as well, to be able to get the entire appropriation of 10 million that the General Assembly authorizes us to use. One other thing I just wanted to bring to your attention, because it's not something you might think about every day, but it actually applies to districts. And just, if you'll give me a moment to explain. In 2020, Virginia authorized joining the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative program, where carbon allowances are auctioned among power plants to meet greenhouse gas reduction goals. DCR gets 45% of Virginia's share of the auction proceeds, according to the law that was passed in 2020. That ended up, based on the auction that was held on March 3rd, about $19.5 million. The reason that's important is that that money funds what's called the Community Flood Preparedness Fund. And the entities that are able to apply for grants to that fund are defined as local government, but it's a fairly broad definition. It means any county, city, town, municipal corporation, authority, district, commission, or political subdivision created by the General Assembly or pursuant to the Constitution or laws of the Commonwealth. In short terms, that means that soil and water conservation districts fall under the definition of local governments. We have just released, actually it went live on Monday on the Virginia Town Hall, is the grant manual for that fund. Its purpose is to deal with flooding issues, and to some degree that obviously you all do that, not only in the agricultural setting, but through VCAP. But I just call that fund to your attention. We have a draft grant manual out now that we're taking public comment on until May 12th. And then as soon thereafter as we can finalize that manual, we'll be putting it out for grant proposals. But I just wanted to bring it up simply because districts do fall under the definition in the code as a local government. And there may be situations, whether it's a district by itself or a district partnering with its surrounding jurisdictions or others to apply for those grants to address flooding issues. But anyway, just wanted to bring that up. I didn't have anything more, Madam President, unless there's any questions for myself or for Daryl.
Thank you, Russ. I will open it up to questions. You feel free to come off mute to ask a question or throw something in the chat box. I see that Daryl put in there that the $10 million recordation fee has only ever happened once before and will be met again for FY21. So this is all really good information to be shared. And Russ, I appreciate that explanation of the Greenhouse Gas Commission and how districts can participate. So I look forward to looking at the draft grants manual. Anyone else have some questions or comments?
Yeah, I've got a question for Russ. This is Don.
Hey, Don.
Russ, with it increased funding coming into from the recordation fee, I know y'all have an appropriation of 10 million, and to go over that, you've got to have an additional appropriation. What happens if at the end of the year, there's $11 million in it. Does that extra $1 million stay in the fund and can be reallocated in the future year?
No, as Daryl, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it just goes to the general fund.
It goes to the general fund, Don, unless we make an appropriation request before this
Yeah.
year is over, for this fiscal year is over.
If it's over 10 million, I would urge y'all to make a request and
We're only authorized in the Appropriations Act to use 10 million. I think there's a cap in the Appropriations Act. So we would have to have that cap increased. Isn't that right, Daryl? Or am I getting my accounting wrong?
No, that's correct, Ross, but I asked that question of the folks upstairs a couple of weeks ago, and they said we can make a request to get that appropriation increased.
Yeah.
I'd urge you to do it. I just don't want to see us losing the money if it's more than
Yeah.
$10 million.
I mean, things are a bit of an embarrassment of riches right now. But I think we strike while the iron's hot. You know, we've got gonna have a lot of money coming in, potentially a surplus. Obviously, you know, the governor was and the General Assembly were very kind to us in the last session. And so, you know, we've got a lot of work to do too. We've got deadlines with the Bay stuff in particular. So it's really an opportunity. You know, we've been looking for this kind of funding and this stability as much as we can have it for a long time. And we've got a few good years going right now. And I think now's the opportunity to, as I say, strike when the iron's hot.
Thank you.
This is Daphne. I have a question about the auction money that would be available for flood protection.
Yeah.
Would it be appropriate for districts who have a lot of watershed dams that need the alarm system that some are getting money to request, like, to get money enough to do all of them?
Right now, the draft grant manual does allow for monitoring systems as one of the purposes for which a grant would be given. I just can't answer Daphne definitively, only because the manual is currently in draft form. It hasn't been finally issued. That'll come in the not too distant future, sometime after May 12th, probably not too long after May 12th. But as proposed by DCR and what's gone out for public comment, yes, those sorts of monitoring systems, stream gauging systems, monitoring systems, so long as they're related to flooding, protection from flooding, preparation for flooding, then those are proposed to be eligible. But again, I can't say until things are final.
Would it be appropriate or is it too early for like districts to have a conversation with their local government officials?
I would think you'd want to do a couple of things. First of all, there's always, you know, there's never a bad time probably to have conversations with your local government, but also, you know, it's open for public comment, the grant manual, and it would certainly be something if you believe that that is a worthy use of the funding, is to comment on the grant manual and say, we think that's a worthy use of the funding. And so that just gives, we hear from a district or multiple districts, that message that may be worth something for y'all to consider.
Is all of that, in other words, that grant manual, is it been advertised and available to the dam safety committee that operates with the districts, you know?
No, only because it's not really dam specific.
Okay.
But that's not a bad idea, because there are mentions of dam related issues that are in the manual, because obviously some dams, their primary purpose is flood control. So they are directly related to flooding issues. But right now it's just been published on the town hall. But I'll talk to to Charles. And he could probably send out a note to that committee just to let them know that that's happening.
Good. I think that would be better because, you know, those people know a lot more about it than I do.
Yep.
They
It's a
would
good
probably
idea.
understand the
Yeah.
technical.
Hadn't thought about that. Good, you know, just trying to get the manual out on the street. I hadn't thought about all this other stuff. So thank you, Daphne. A very good suggestion.
Great.
Right. Gary Cross has a question. Mr. Cross?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I don't want you to see me. I'm not that pretty. So I'm with Chowan Basin Soil and Water, and I'm really pleased to see the chance for cover crop dates being moved back. I think we missed the boat a long time on, well, we know we recognize the ability of the plants to uptake unused nutrients, and that's what the biggest of it was for. But cover crop just to be on the field to help with erosion in the spring and then during the winter months is really important. But I appreciate y'all looking into that part. And that leads me into my problem we have in a lot of districts, and that's allocating money and running out of funds. I think DCR needs to clarify or redefine who is an entity. In years that we don't have much funding, we have lower caps, and we have to do that to more or less spread the money around. Row crop farmers here in Southampton, Isle of Wight, and adjoining counties farm acreage large enough that just a few men would use up the allocated money that we have by creating entities that are questionable, as far as I'll go with that. I think we need further, and this may not be the right place to ask for these types of things. I've never been one to follow the chain of command anyway. That's why I didn't stay in the service very long. But is any way we can look at who is qualified as an entity? You know, if we run out of money and we start issuing tax credits and the tax form doesn't match the entity, I wonder if we are setting ourselves up for legal problems with IRS or whoever. And to me, a lot of this stuff borderlines on fraud. So I hope you've understood, and I'll be glad to answer more questions if you don't quite understand where I'm going. In a year, we have a lot of money. We can up our caps and make everybody happy. But do you understand what I'm trying to address?
Mr. Cross, I do understand the issue, and it is something that we have discussed internally any number of times amongst the staff. I don't know if there's a legal solution to that, but it's certainly something that we can look at and discuss again. But right now, I don't have a solution that we can offer.
Thank you. I'd be glad to try to share some thoughts. You know, but right now the district's gonna have to make up their own rules, and I'd like to see all districts be on the same page and be consistent with each other. And I'm afraid that we're leading ourselves down a road that is gonna not look too good to the public.
Understood.
Thank you.
Thank y'all very much, and you can contact the district and they can give me my contact info, and I would be glad to. Like I say, this probably wasn't the right place to do this at, but I saw y'all were having a meeting today, and I've enjoyed listening to you while I've been spraying burn down on this cover crop. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Gary. We appreciate your comments. It's nice to be able to have some folks to engage in conversations with our partners. And so I appreciate you bringing it to Russ and Daryl's attention. I think we have some hands raised. Let's go ahead.
Yes, Madam President, this is Tabea Zimmerman, and I have some comments I'd like to share and a question also for Mr. Glover, if I can go ahead.
Absolutely, Tabea.
Thank you. First of all, I want to mention that I am a conservation specialist from Colonial Soil and Water District, and I'm speaking today as a co-chair of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee for the Employees Association. We have several of our members attending today's meeting, and so we're all excited to hear Mr. Glover's update about the VSU Small Farmer Outreach Program, and wanted to express gratitude for his invitation of some of our members to attend and participate in some preliminary discussions that have been held in the past month. And this program is particularly exciting for us in our capacity and the work we've been doing with this committee in the past year, because we see it as a really great opportunity to connect with small producers and other socially disadvantaged farmers that districts perhaps haven't connected with on the same level as our traditional row crop farmers and larger livestock operations. And so we're looking forward to this partnership and committed to participating in our own capacity as employees in our local districts, and also encouraging colleagues and people in our local areas to engage in the way that is appropriate for our local context. So a question I have is, an understanding that this is a partnership between DCR and the VSU agents. Districts are the ones, putting boots on the ground and often implementing the DCR programs. And so I'm wondering, what are some strategies to ensure that there's clear communication among these different dots, so that the technical staff who are, for example, implementing cost share, that we can connect with the farmers, the new farmers who are coming to our doorstep, and how can we ensure that everyone feels comfortable and that the information that needs to be shared is getting to the right people?
Well, thank you, Tabea, for your support and the support of the Employees Association, and for your participation in the meetings that we've already had. What we're trying to do, I mentioned in my report that we're going to set up a Microsoft Teams calendar. And what we're going to put on that calendar are the events that VSU SFOP is planning, as well as their regular monthly staff meetings, which I plan to attend as many of those as I can. So we're hoping that, and we'll have additional Zoom conference calls like we've had already going forward periodically. So, as we, first of all, make everybody that wants to be involved accessible to the calendar of events, and we get that information out on a regular basis and keep it updated. And then we'll be having, meetings between the Employees Association, SFOP, and DCR, like we already have. We'll continue to have those periodically going forward to try to keep everybody informed and up to date.
Thank you. Yeah, it seems like districts, will perhaps play an integral role in ensuring that new participants are getting into our programs. And so I'm happy to hear about that calendar and looking forward to participating in those meetings. Some of our members were able to attend a VSU meeting yesterday that was held at the Catawba Research Center, and said that they had a very warm welcome and were happy to attend and start making some of those connections. So thank you so much for this effort, and looking forward to continuing participating in it.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'd like to, reiterate what Tabea is saying, in that this is small farm outreach is something that I'm pretty passionate about. And in my district, I've always encouraged, trying to, reach out to those smaller farmers that may not have as much visibility or may not have the resources. And so I'm very excited to see this program moving forward as well. And I'm also excited to see one of my counties in that color chart of the different localities. So, Ricky Rash is jumping off. So if you have any questions about legislative items, please contact him. Any other questions for Russ or Daryl? Thank you, gentlemen. Always good to see you, and appreciate your report.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll just continue down. We only have a couple of things left on this agenda. It's a good thing, because things are starting to get crazy at my house. So I'll try to talk off over dog yelps and children. So next is our executive committee report and items for discussion. The first up, we want to talk about those, or I want to talk about the Soil and Water Conservation Board nominations for Area 2 and Area 5. And we briefly touched on this as we were going through the area reports. And as folks know, you know, as we move forward, we have to have spots that open up on the Soil and Water Conservation Boards for our areas. And Area 2, as we talked about, is still working on identifying candidates, and we will continue to support their efforts to do that. Hopefully we will have some recommendations or nominations to push forward in May, as I understand it, from Kendall. So stay tuned for that. So we won't have a vote on that right now. What we do have is we have nominations for Area 5. We have Chuck Arson and Kevin Dunn as the nominations to put forward for the Soil and Water Conservation Board, if I am addressing that correctly. Kendall, do you have anything to add for that, or Area 5, anything to add?
I think go ahead, Daphne, I'm sorry.
I just have a question. I guess they're supposed to do some preliminary work. Is that handled through your office, Kendall?
I can answer that question. So for Area 5 and Area 2, when I have these names, I'll be reaching out and ensuring I have an updated bio and details for the May Soil and Water Board meeting. We'll move those bios forward and then work with the department as it gets further moved up the chain to the Secretary of the Commonwealth for appointment process. So I'll certainly take care of that piece of it. I do believe you have Chuck Arneson on the line if you wanted to hear from him. He is the current chair of the Soil and Water Board and eligible for reappointment. One of the names that is brought forward, Kevin Dunn, is fantastic to work with. He is a district staffer actually in the Piedmont Soil and Water District, as well as a director in the Peter Francisco District.
Yeah, we were lucky to have him agree to be a nominee. I'm concerned about him being overbooked, but he decided he could do it, and so that's wonderful.
All right, Chuck, since you're on, did you have anything that you wanted to say or add?
Kevin's a great person.
And so is Chuck.
All right, are there any comments or questions about the process or the nominees? Okay, then we will be looking for a motion to put forward these nominees.
I would like to so move Daphne Jamson from Blue Ridge, Area 5.
Don Wells,
Andrew
second.
Maitland. Okay.
I heard two of you. I captured either Granville or Don. Y'all can fight over it, as well as Daphne making the motion.
Don can have it.
All right.
I was gonna say I could see Don, so I, let him go ahead and take it there. That's who I heard first. Sorry, Granville. All right, so we have a motion on the floor. Is there any further discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of putting forth nominees for Area 5 for the Soil and Water Conservation Board in Chuck Arneson and Kevin Dunn, signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. Hearing none, the motion is carried. Kendall will work with those nominees to make sure that any paperwork that needs to be submitted is completed and help folks through the process.
Absolutely. Expect to hear from me after May 12th, the Area 2 meeting, before the May 20th Soil and Water Board, just to recheck in. We can do it electronically with the nominees that Area 2 is looking to bring forward. It's my understanding they have a nominations committee. Perhaps Mr. Gilson might be helping with that, but we have a small window between their area meeting and the Soil and Water Board to move forward and really confirm our support of those Area 2 nominees also.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
All right, next on the agenda is the annual meeting and virtual training information. You've heard about this a couple of times. We have been very fortunate to have the staff work on these virtual training blitzes. I can't speak highly enough about their efforts. Here, Kendall has for you a breakdown of our survey participants. These were our feedback responses. We had 46 responses to the survey, and I will let Kendall briefly talk about those responses and results.
Can certainly do that, and hopefully Wayne Davis can come off mute and really take the lead on this effort. I'm sharing on your screen a survey we did this past January, really to capture folks' thoughts, inputs, topics for training still needed. Many of the trainings you've seen this past spring came from feedback here, and have really appreciated the leadership of Wayne Davis, who is our second vice president, serves as our annual meeting chairman during that role, and he's really taken a big hand in helping with some of this effort. So I'll toss it to him if he wants to speak to any of these virtual efforts as well as our planning.
Yes, thank you, Kendall. As Kendall indicated, when we first started these virtual trainings, we weren't real sure how they would be received, but we've been pleasantly surprised. They certainly have exceeded our expectations. Just to give you just one example, we had one recently on April 7th that dealt with precision ag and nutrient management, and we had over 160 participants. It was a very engaging session, and one of the outcomes that came out of it is we need to do more of these type of technical trainings, because not only for the newly hired employees from all the different conservation partners, but also for the experienced ones that need to get refreshed on some of these topics. And then maybe rolling the clock back a little bit, on March 3rd, we did one on cover crops. And this was more or less a request that came out of Area 6, and we had over 200 plus participants on that one. To let you know kind of what's on the horizon, I have met with Kendall, and we're meeting with the staff to determine where do we go in the future. And I know with some of these technical sessions, there's a need to have a more advanced session, and we are looking into that. For example, we'll probably, when we do the next one on precision ag, we'll probably be at 3 different farms within the state, and we'll actually do the sessions at those farms. Of course, it will be by Zoom, but we've got some great ideas that we're thinking about, and we'll keep you posted on those developments. I've mentioned to Kendall that, going back and look at some of the other sessions that we've had, again, I think we need some follow-up. I still have a concern that we've got a lot of new elected directors. Many, I wouldn't say many, but some districts in the state still are not meeting face-to-face. And it's been my observation that some of these directors still need some additional training in all different program areas. And I think we can fill some of that void by having some future training for those directors. We did do a new director meet and greet. That was well received. I think we need to build on that as well. And Kendall, with that, let me just stop and see if there's any questions before we go and talk about the annual meeting.
Sure, please feel free to come off mute. I don't see anything in the chat box, but I don't see, as Wayne mentioned, these virtual trainings disappearing. We've certainly been able to expand our reach and have some really great numbers of attendance, and folks have requested we continue. So as he noted, there are some on the horizon, and certainly opportunity if there's a training topic that you want to bring forward.
I don't see any questions. So Wayne, if you go ahead and let's talk about the annual meeting.
Well, I think on the annual meeting, there's still, as we all know on this call, a lot of issues that need to be flushed out. And Kendall and I have begun those conversations. And, just a couple that I think about on a daily basis is we're going to need to get a feel for a realistic number of how many staffers each conservation partnership expects to send. I'll just give you an example. If NRCS or DCR is only going to send, less than 5 staffers, that definitely impacts our registration numbers, just to cite one example. I think it's pretty much a given where I sit that the attendance by district directors and district staffers will be considerably less in 2021 if we have a face-to-face meeting. Things we need to think about is how registration would be, that registration process, how would that be handled? When we go to breakout sessions, will the hotel be able to accommodate our individual needs? So another thing to think about, we certainly are learning on the go with these virtual Zoom meetings. Could we incorporate or expand and improve a virtual training meeting in 2021 that would meet our needs versus a face-to-face? So at this time, nothing's off the board. We're just in the early stages. We have not even had our first annual planning committee meeting yet by Zoom or in person. So we need input from not only the leadership, but from all the directors on some of y'all's ideas.
Yeah, this is a great opportunity if anybody feels very strongly one way or the other to speak up.
This is Daphne. So Wayne, are you saying that you are envisioning an in-person meeting, but you may have virtual, it may be available virtually as well?
I'll let Kendall answer that, Daphne, but that's something that we're looking into. I think that would be hard to pull off, but it is something that we're trying to learn from other organizations, how they've done it. So it's kind of on the table.
I think, Daphne, Wayne's comment is we are really in a place of limbo where we really want feedback and input before we hold our first committee meeting to make any of these tough decisions. Certainly a hybrid meeting comes with some significant costs we've learned, as well as some really obstacles when it comes to a business meeting. We've been on others who have tried a hybrid virtual business meeting, and it has been really difficult to have those multiple platforms. So personally, I see our staff struggling with a hybrid opportunity and really need to invest one way or the other. We've joined a lot of virtual conferences, so certainly what we did last year would not be, if we did virtual again, what we would do this coming December. We have the opportunity, like Wayne mentioned, to really build on what we've been learning and to craft something perhaps similar to what NACD did. At the same time, I think the conversations need to continue. So I encourage you to reach out to Wayne and myself. I will add to Wayne's comments that we do not currently have a contract for this December. So there is that component also that needs to be kept in mind. We have a location holding space for us, but that convention center that is right next to the Embassy Suites we had looked at is not opening until this month. So while they're holding our location, an in-person conference also has that hurdle to overcome of a contract need.
Would it be helpful if districts would poll their members and their staff and their directors to see how many people would think about attending an in-person annual meeting?
Daphne, that's exactly what I was thinking. I was actually thinking that we make a lot of assumptions here on what districts and district staff would do, but without actually querying the districts to find out, kind of a straw poll vote of how many attendees, it's hard to make that call.
I think to both of you on that question, that can certainly be one of the first tasks as the annual meeting planning committee starts their work this spring, recognizing that would be a really short turnaround for a survey. And I also have to recognize that that's the answer at that point in time. We've learned from a lot of folks that if you were to ask me today, that's how I'm answering the question of attending an in-conference event. Yeah. We're looking at December at this point. So certainly a different circumstance and world that we might be in at that point. So I think this is something worth doing. I've certainly gotten a lot of input, many districts who've reached out to talk to me on this topic already at both extremes of wanting us to forego and do virtual or wanting us to potentially consider some type of in-person event. So I hear you loud and clear and think Wayne and I can talk about this as we kick off our work.
So the meeting place is not determined. So where you're not doing it in Roanoke, or are you?
No, so that's a great question, Daphne. This year would normally be on this side of the state. So we have space held at the Embassy Suites in Hampton and the Convention Center next door. We do not have a contract in place. The contract negotiation work that we usually do does take a while. So we would need to really make this decision fast, and we would be speed tracking not only the contract part of it, but also the planning piece of it. We usually have an agenda set by August with an agenda out by September. So on our end, I think a piece of it is how do we plan and what do we plan for, be it in person or virtual. We're going to have some hiccups along the way to ensure we're meeting folks' needs. So a key piece also to think about then is we were supposed to be at the Hotel Roanoke this past December. That did not happen. We have a great relationship with the Hotel Roanoke that they allowed us out of the contract that year without penalty. And we've moved that contract into 2022. So if nothing else, we have a contract in place for 2022 at the Hotel Roanoke. That will be an in-person event.
Well, and Daphne raises a good point actually about where is it going to be held, because we have noticed sometimes that attendance on the eastern side of the state can be lower than attendance in Roanoke. So also something to consider. People might not be as willing to travel across the state. And so that might affect numbers too. So that's something to consider. All right. Well, I don't know that we need to belabor the discussion any longer. So I know that Wayne and Kendall will be working on that. Neil has a comment in there. Yeah, and that's a good point, Neil. You know, I also have heard that some of the state agencies have not made a call yet on when to either attend in-person meetings or to actually even come into the office. So I do know that a lot of these agencies at the state and federal level are still operating at like 25% in-person capacity in buildings. And so I don't know if Russ has anything to add to that.
I was just going to say you're absolutely correct there. We've been, the expectation that we have is that we'll remain in nearly full telework mode for still a bit longer. We're still operating under the directives from the chief of staff that have been in place for quite some time. So until that changes, Neil's absolutely right that we just may have some difficulties depending on the nature of the meeting and some other things that are related to the state policies that we've been presented with.
I think that's a fair point, and I'll be working with partners further, is if we don't have the state partners or the federal partner support, what does that mean for our speakers? Not just the networking of the event itself, but also how does it restructure an agenda for an in-person conference? Would we really be doing Clean Water Farm Awards even if we were in person, if we don't have the number of state and federal supporters there?
Yeah, and these are tough decisions to make. You know, and still there's not a whole lot, even though folks are getting vaccinated and it seems like things are improving. I think that there's still a lot of uncertainties moving forward. And again, like Russ stated, you know, it's very difficult when our state agencies and partners who have to rely on the agency's guidance and not personal choice really impacts our decision-making process. So if there's nothing else, you know, I'm sure Wayne and Kendall will tackle these and we'll be hearing more about it in the near future. And we already talked about the 2022 Hotel Roanoke contract. For all intents and purposes, we're going to assume that is a go. So if anything, you know, there are a couple of in-person events happening, you know, things that we can manage, like the golf tournament, Graves Mountain. So there are opportunities for district board members and staff to meet and greet and participate and do that networking in the meantime. So there actually had also been some conversation about our summer board meeting coming up and whether or not we would have our summer board meeting in person. So stay tuned as we work out those details. There has been some interest in pulling and trying to do that again, just as a another kind of team building and networking for our board of directors and participants, area chairs. All right, do we have anything else under executive committee report or items for discussion, Kendall?
No, ma'am.
All right, do we have any new business that anybody would like to bring to our attention? Topics of interest. I do really appreciate everybody hanging on. This has been a long meeting. It's full of a lot of good information. So if I don't hear any new business, I'll go into my closing remarks here before we start the foundation agenda. Again, thanks everyone for sticking with us. I really do appreciate our partner support. I really appreciate the partners hanging on, the ones that are still with us. I know that they are taking the time out of their busy days to listen to where the association is going and what our areas are doing. Before we leave our agenda, I do want to again thank our association staff. Kendall did an incredible job with General Assembly, and I am excited that the funds are coming out of that. It turned out a lot better than I think a lot of us anticipated it would. It took a lot of coordination and a lot of work with our legislators and staff. I'd also like to extend my kudos to Bonnie Mall for those aren't going to be on the Education Foundation meeting if you're choosing to jump off. I'm reiterating stuff that I've said in area meetings and that I said earlier in the year. But for me, I think education has been one of the hardest, most difficult challenges to adapt to in this environment. I talk about adaptive management and trying to be flexible. Bonnie and the education staff across the Commonwealth for the districts are doing a tremendous job navigating, and the creation and development of a virtual environthon we would never thought was possible. And I'm astounded at the hard work and the efforts of our education staff in getting that rolling. And it's amazing because we have participants, we have teams. Again, and I really appreciate the hard work, as well as our VCAP, Maura and Kevin. I'm very excited that we're getting that extra $500,000 coming up in the next year to put VCAP on the ground. We still need more money, I'm sure, and I know that they are working really hard and finding funding sources, because what we have found in the last year is that folks that stay at home like to do projects. And so a lot of people interested in using some of that money to improve their properties in the suburban and urban areas. So
Some of us just like to watch Netflix, but anyway.
I wish I had time to watch Netflix, Russ. I mean, that's awesome. I've got 3 kids at home, 4 cats, 2 dogs, and 6 foster dogs at the moment. So it's a little busy. Oh, and a bearded dragon was also a new acquisition. Over, like, Lynn's shaking his head like that must be crazy. I have my own small farm anyway in the city of Fredericksburg. So thank you, Kevin and Maura. And then I would be remiss if I didn't thank Shannon. She is, Shannon Mitchum is behind the scenes a lot. We don't see very much of her, but she provides a tremendous amount of support to Kendall and the staff, and does a lot of the legwork that we just don't see, or sometimes we don't really appreciate. And I just wanted to make mention to her that we appreciate all her hard work. Looking forward to seeing our new intern, and thank you all. And please extend appreciation to your staff getting us through this. We would not be where we are without our staff, I've got to say. We will continue to work with our partners, and I think that's enough of me running my mouth and talking about stuff. I know that people have things to do, and I know that Richard Chafin wants to get into our Education Foundation agenda. So I will say thank you and stay healthy, stay well. And I'm looking forward to seeing you guys May 19th at the golf tournament. Thank you all.
Thank you. As I toss it over to you.
Thank you, Madam President. I appreciate it. Before we start on the Education Foundation agenda, I'm reminded that we are told to invoke the blessings of deity in any good and important ventures. So we do invoke those blessings on this foundation and our association, and we thank the Almighty for all He does for us. I'd like to call the Foundation Board meeting to order right now. Are there any additions to the agenda? Hearing none, we will move forward as it has been distributed to you. You have received the minutes of the last meeting of the foundation. Are there any additions or corrections to those minutes? Hearing none, they will be approved as distributed. John Peterson is not with us today, and we hope all things are going well on his end. But he is not with us for the treasurer's report. Kendall, would you or Don, either one, like to share some comments about the report?
I'm happy to give a brief update. You have the budget on your screen and linked in your agenda. You will note a few items in terms of our total restricted fund. We have a large amount always for our Envirothon funding. Most of that is from Dominion, the remaining some additional grants, the license plate. You have some additional unrestricted funds to note that are may have changed a bit since we last met in December. That should be brought to your attention. This unrestricted donation amount is significantly higher than we've previously seen. A lot of this is driven by the kind hearts who want to memorialize in donations the passing of Dr. Wilkie Chafin. So those funds are noted there. You'll see our golf tournament does have some income that is already for folks who are signed up for May 19th. We encourage you, and we'll talk a little bit more of that in later on the agenda. Our raffle amount is now final since you've seen it during our virtual event. We're really excited that even in a virtual setting, we were able to raise some dollars for the foundation through our virtual fundraiser. On the expense side, some of the norm, again, you'll see the transfer to the investments for a large donation that was made again on the Chafin Employee Awards in Dr. Chafin's name. On the Envirothon, normal expenses that we have for the running of our local, our state and national competition needs. Scholarships noted here are all scholarships that were paid out last July. So you'll note that all of the scholarships we choose in the next month with our scholarship committee will actually be written check-wise come July 1st. These are last year's. You'll note you'll have a youth conservation camp line item. There's no income or expense at this point. We are partnering with Department of Forestry, so you may see us using this line item for this year's version of a youth camp, which will be different, the Academy for Natural Resources. You have a notation down here in terms of cash balance for the checking account at 116,000. You'll see the notation of our investment account balances. The one significant change I want to really note that you've probably potentially indicated since our December event is our executive team of officers met about a month ago and did a closer look at our finances and made the shift of 50,000 from our checking account into our investment account. So you see the cash balance checking has gone down that significantly because we did move some of those dollars we've been able to raise through fundraisers into our investments. I will stop there unless there are questions, sir.
Did it go into the foundation investment account?
Yes, sir. So
Okay.
we did move it into our general foundation investment account. I am not positive yet that and I apologize, I can't answer it for you, that the foundation investments noted here actually show that amount. We cut the check and delivered it to Ray Moore's office, and it probably doesn't show in our March 31st investment balance.
We did approve that action. And I'd just like to, as a follow-up to those discussions, would like to note that, again, Ray continues to make, Ray Moore continues to make really great suggestions and recommendations to us on how to invest, and our funds are performing well, and we are appreciative of that relationship. The only other comment that I have is just noting that all that Wilkie did for us continues to touch us in a positive way, even in these passings. Are there any other comments or questions with regard to the finances of your foundation?
I have a question. This is Daphne. Kendall, is the youth conservation camp going to be in person, or is it going to, okay, it will be in person?
Nope. You must, we'll talk about it later on the agenda, and hopefully Bonnie can speak to it and answer your question.
Okay.
It will not be an in-person event this year. We are doing, we're actually calling it entirely different, Natural Resource Academy. Bonnie is working with the Department of Forestry because forestry camp will not be occurring either. And during our same week of what we normally hold youth camp, there will be a virtual camp opportunity. So students will participate in the morning in virtual lessons, and then in the afternoon have outside activities to accomplish.
And those will the outside activities just be at various points locally, or will it be at Virginia Tech?
It will not be at Virginia Tech. It will be on their own at home.
Okay, got it.
Ms. Jameson, so it's going to be kind of we didn't want to cancel. We didn't want to feel comfortable holding in camp this year, and we didn't want to cancel it outright. So we are teaming up, like Kendall said, with the Department of Forestry and offering the Virginia Academy of Natural Resources. How it's going to work is in the morning, students will attend live Zoom presentations about aquatics, forestry, wildlife. And then on Friday will be accumulation of everything they learn. And in the afternoon, they'll be given activities that they can do on their own, such as identify trees or learn more about watersheds, do some water quality monitoring. And the next day, say like those activities for Monday, the next day on a Tuesday, that's when they will go and debrief about their experience with the other campers. So it's a unique situation, but our end goal that we're really striving for is to still give students knowledge about natural resources in Virginia and pair them up and create this community of other like-minded students that they can really show that there are other people in Virginia that are interested in natural resources and really have a really cool experience. So what Kendall is showing the press release, I'll share the link on our website. If you want to share it with anyone, there is a cost associated with this. It's $25 per camper. But how it's working now is campers have up until April 30th to apply. And then afterwards, Ellen Powell and myself will get together and let people know that they've been accepted. And some soil and water districts have offered to pay for their campers to go. So I hope that kind of gives you a better information about what we're doing this year, Ms. Jamerson.
Thank you, Bonnie.
So is there is there a limit as to how many each district can send to this or support to this?
So it's open to any like 9th through 12th grader in Virginia, and where our goal is to have 60 students. Right now we're about 14, so we could definitely use promotion to encourage, if you know a current 9th through 12th grader who's interested in natural resources, to apply. And how it's going to work is after Ellen and I meet and we look at who is going to be we've accepted, I'm going to reach back out to those districts staff that have people from their area to see if they're willing to sponsor said camper.
Okay. All right, thank you.
There's a bit of a backwards process this year. Instead of you sending us your nominees, they go through this link that Bonnie can drop in the chat box too. I would also really point out that Bonnie's tried to fold our programs and cross outreach where she can by doing it in this virtual setting, and Dominion's support of a Zoom platform and our virtual effort. These students will actually compete in a mock Dominion Energy Envirothon program at the end of their week. So thank you, Bonnie, for clarifying some of the details.
All right, thank you for the, thank you for the update on that program. And before we do move forward, I do want to ask again if there are any other questions or comments relative to our finances. If there are not, the financial report will be filed for audit. The next item on the agenda is my report, and I just want to echo the good words that Janina had earlier for our team and all that they're doing, and particularly in the area of innovation about how to do things, how to continue to conduct Envirothon, Youth Conservation Leadership Institute, Youth Conservation Camp, all of those things, and the innovative approaches to doing that. So I just want to add that to the comments that Janina made earlier. I have no other comments. So at this time, we will move on to Corey, if you are still with us and would care to make any comments relative to the Employees Association.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So I was talking to Kendall, and we kind of have decided to move forward similar to the way that we did last year, where we are planning to request from the Educational Foundation an amount of $1,500 for the Employees Association to assist with programming and scholarships as we plan for some of these training meetings and events for 2021. I understand, and it's something that is later on in the year for us. So, with that being the case, it's okay. And I just wanted to kind of make you guys aware that we are planning to move forward with some in-person trainings and if the worst case scenario where we can't do something like that, last year y'all assisted us in paying for virtual speakers and stuff like that. So I just wanted to kind of make you guys aware that we would be requesting assistance similar to the past. But that was all that I had for that. The amount would be $1,500 as you see in the request there. And that request letter was attached in the agenda as well.
Corey, we received that and appreciate that very much. And we were just chatting here to the side for just a moment, and that that amount is in our budget, and we know what good work you all do and you do with it. And so to proceed with your planning, I'd like to just ask if there's any objection to going ahead and authorizing those funds at this time. I'll just ask it in the form of whether or not there are any objections. Otherwise, again, it's a budgeted item and you can move forward with it, and you'll know you have it for your planning.
Wow, that would be great.
Hearing no objections, you got it.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else, Corey?
That's all I had. I appreciate your time.
Well, we appreciate what you all do for districts and for all of us.
Thank you.
Under committee reports, we do need to appoint an education committee chair, and Robin Coates. Oh, she is? Okay, Robin, if you care to say anything in a moment, we will appreciate that. But Robin from the Northampton district has Eastern Shore. I'm so sorry. She's from Northampton, I believe, but from the Eastern Shore district. But a retired educator and a longtime member of her district board, and has graciously agreed to accept having her name placed in nomination to be our education committee chair. So I present that to you in the form of a motion from your executive committee to elect Robin as your education committee chair?
I am here, and I'll be glad to say just a few words about myself, so you can get to know me a little bit better. I am retired from Eastern Shore Community College after 34 years of teaching biology and chemistry. I also taught 6 years in high school before that. I've served on a board at the Eastern Shore District from 1991 and have been the chair for the last approximately 15 of those years. And I serve on the board primarily because of my interest in environmental education, and have worked with all kinds of programs from Arbor Day to watershed festivals to poster contests, scholarships, all kinds of educational programs. And I just want to make one other note. I serve on the Chesapeake Bay Executive Council, the local government advisory committee of that. I was appointed by the governor when Chip Jones stepped down in the fall of 2019. And so I am representing soil and water on that Virginia delegation. And the governor, of course, wanted to appoint somebody from the Eastern Shore. So I'll just make that note, and just to give you a little background about myself. But I thank you for the opportunity to be nominated as chair.
Robin, we thank you for your willingness. All in favor of of having Robin serve in this capacity, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you so much, Robin.
Thank you.
And everybody for your vote. Kendall, would you like to just update us on some fundraising activities?
I will gladly move us through this quickly if you like, sir. Our annual meeting fundraisers, our auction is still to be determined. You heard that conversation with Wayne Davis about how we'll hold our annual meeting. But either way, we're going to still need to talk about how we operate fundraisers for the foundation through our annual meeting, and we'll keep that conversation going, be it a raffle like we did last year or an in-person event. If you have feedback or thoughts, please let us know. The next item, Amazon Smile. I say this every time. I hope all of you think this is a broken record. Please shop Amazon Smile instead of Amazon. Choose the Education Foundation as your charity to give back to. We actually have seen an uptick of support through Amazon. Apparently in a pandemic, you're ordering more, and some of you have heard this loud and clear. So every little bit of helps. Additionally, Kroger Community Rewards. This is another one that actually gives a significant percentage back. We only have maybe a dozen households that are participating right now, but I'd encourage you to click this link. It will tell you how you can connect your shopper's card if you have a Kroger in your area and shop there with the foundation, and they'll give a portion back just like Amazon. The really big one today is the golf tournament. It says postponement. It's mostly a bit of a delay and change. That's probably worded wrong. We are holding it later this year. It will be on May 19th. And that is because we have restructured our golf tournament. We previously started the event at 1 o'clock and wrapped up with a banquet dinner. This year we'll be starting at 10 a.m. We will forego our banquet dinner, and we will provide players with a box lunch at the turn. So when you've completed 9 of 18 holes, when you're finished playing golf for the day, you'll turn your scorecard into me. We will announce winners over social media, over email, as many ways as we can think, and we will send prizes to the winning team, but we will forego the large banquet dinner in light of COVID protocols. Now, I really do encourage you, though, to still join. What a great way for us to get outside and network and have a little bit of fun. Registration is at 9:30. Your registration bag, some of your goodies, your hand sanitizer will all be on the cart for you. We will start at 10 o'clock. You can come use the driving range, just like always. Our staff may be helping out. We haven't quite figured out all the logistics that the hollows will require of us. So uncertain about the beverage cart at this time, but know you'll be able to purchase some of it before you head out on the course. What I would encourage, and is new this year, is you can also download that registration form that is right here on the website, send us a check, or you can go on our website and actually add any of these items to your cart. You can pay for a single player, a foursome, your district or a company that you may know can be a whole sponsor, a beverage cart sponsor at $250, or a tournament sponsor. Our tournament sponsors are largest and includes a foursome. You can even purchase your mulligan tickets ahead of the time in case you wanted to forego any crowd and head straight to your golf cart when you got there. We do say though, if you're paying online, that it does include the online price, the credit card convenience fee. If you want to forego that, put your check in the mail and send it our direction. I really hope that some districts might actually see this as a really new, great opportunity for staff and directors who are comfortable coming out. Use it as a in-person team building effort. Peter Francisco is one that I always look to as a great example. They have a team that often comes and spends the day networking and team building. They are not golfers. They tend to compete and want to hold the rights of that last place prize that we often give away. Lynn Graves, I know, is registered and will come back and be defending his winning title too. So I can't push this enough. It's one of my favorite days. It's clearly one of Janina's favorite days. We do not have many folks registered at this point, so please spread the word and help us get it out there. Questions about golf tournament? Okay. If I can.
Kendall, how many people have registered?
Gosh, I have
5, 10.
I have four, maybe 5 teams, and 2 or 3 of those are my family.
That's what I was going to ask you. Do I need to re-register?
If you registered for the September, I will roll your registration over, and Lynn, that's exactly what you did. But certainly if y'all want to make a contribution to the foundation, I'll never turn away funding for the foundation.
No, I understand.
But no, certainly your whole sponsor and your team registration that we took and then postponed will roll over for this event.
Okay.
Right. Other questions about golf tournament? I will be getting something out to everyone who participated in the golf tournament in years past, ideally this week. So stay tuned for some additional information for our avid golfers like Lynn and Janina. Okay. That ends us for fundraising. Unless there's some more questions, I can keep running through much of this topic and apologize. I know I'm moving even faster than what we'd like and don't mean to short the foundation, but recognize you've been on here since 9. The Dora Chafin Employee Dependent Scholarship update, really to let you know that we have the Employee Dependent Scholarship available. This board usually decides whether or not we advertise by July 1st, 2021, and then we decide if we've received applications. They are due August 23rd, and we move forward. This is the scholarship that supports an employee or their dependent to further their work in a natural resource career. So something we don't have to make a decision today, but I'll be looking to our officer team and board members by our next summer board meeting to really determine how we move forward in advertisement. The next item to really bring to your attention is our college scholarship report. Those applications are due by April 23rd. To Shannon Mitchum. Make sure you have emailed or sent them to our office to Shannon's attention. She is compiling and coordinating our scholarship effort this year. She's done a really great job of it in years past too. So to Shannon by April 23rd, we actually extended our deadline a little bit. In past years, it's sometimes been due end of March. We went ahead and gave folks till end of April almost, and we'll be compiling our scholarship review committee. We provided that extra bit of time because we knew when we've asked for your applications by March, it's because many of your districts actually like to go to a school banquet and honors assembly and recognize those people who've received that scholarship. We're still in a weird predicament where that might not be the case. So we've pushed it back to April by end of May, early June, we will actually be notifying of our statewide scholarship winners. So please don't miss the opportunity to have one tossed into the statewide candidate pool. The review committee will be doing their work the month of May. The Natural Resource Leadership Institute, this is one that is included in your budget, but applications are open and the all district email went out earlier this week. I hope that each of you take a closer look at it. There are many of us, be it around this table or at our own staff, who have participated in Being Early. If you have any questions, it's a fantastic leadership opportunity. And the foundation typically offers up to 2 scholarships. We work really closely with Being Early on those applications that they receive and how we fund them. So if you have any interest in Being Early, even though the application is due in June, I would ask that you reach out to me directly and let me know so we can work with Being Early to partner and pair as they do their review of applications to ensure that financial assistance might be considered by us. Right. Questions about any of the scholarship opportunities? We've talked about some of these items already, but Bonnie, I'm hoping you can, if okay, sir, for me to just keep trucking. Speak to some of these. Janina has given great kudos to Bonnie. Our education programming has been one that, you're right, has been the hardest per se to really transition into a virtual format. And Bonnie has not missed a step at all. We are learning this together and writing the rules as we go for a virtual event, but many of you might not have realized that we've tried to encourage and share during area meetings that Bonnie led a mock Envirothon earlier this year with directors and staff and partners. And you were really great beta testers for Bonnie to really understand how that competition could run in May for us to work through those kinks. So kudos to our staff. We're a hands-on team and really have all tried to support Bonnie in some of those program changes. You've got the links on your agenda to some of the program pages that she has on our website. As she's mentioned, our competition is virtual. You have the press release also of how NCF has planned to go virtual this summer too. Bonnie is super excited. We are still the reigning champions at this point and have a lot to prepare Virginia students as they head into a virtual format. So Bonnie, any details you want to share about Envirothon as well as any additional on Natural Resource Leadership Academy?
Not at this time, thank you.
Thank you. I would also say one of the other education programs that Bonnie is leading is our Youth Conservation Leadership Institute. This is one of the newer programs of the foundation still. It has got the largest attendance we've ever seen for Leadership Institute. And Bonnie continues to work through a number of ways to shift this program into its virtual setting. We usually have a wrap-up program in person with students where they share their community service projects. What that looks like is still up in the air as she really tries to get some guidance and survey information from participants. But Bonnie, do you want to explain a little bit in numbers and share the really great work on Leadership Institute?
Not at this time, thank you.
That's all right. All right, she's humble. I'd encourage you to really plug into this one. If you're interested in even attending any of those wrap-up events for the participants, I believe there's over 20 participants she's been working with. And while we've talked a little bit about how education programs shifting into an education format and virtual is really tough for Envirothon and camp, I really think some of these lessons learned are helpful, especially on Leadership Institute. We used to hold conference calls for much of our work. Leadership Institute will now meet via Zoom, and some of their programming, I think, really is enhanced by a virtual setting. We've talked, oh, go ahead.
And it, again, to the point too of innovation, Bonnie and Kendall are working on options for some possible regional recognitions, different ways to continue to recognize these outstanding young people who are devoting so much to these projects and trying to learn more about their environment and how to conduct themselves in interaction with agencies and other people. So again, thanks to Bonnie, Kendall, the whole team for all that they're doing in that regard.
Absolutely. I'm lucky to work with such a great staff all around. Other topics, really reach out to Bonnie if you have questions about Girl Scout patch, poster contest. And we already mentioned Stewardship Week and Earth Day are coming soon. The marketing committee put out all district yesterday, I believe, some helpful resources that your district might want to use. Stewardship Week, like I said, tune into our Facebook page. Bonnie led our video creation workshop recently. It was a 3-part series. Districts had homework. They created their own videos. Some of them chose to do it around the Stewardship Week and forestry topic. And at the end of the 3 seminars that we did over Zoom, those who chose that topic, 4 districts actually participated and shared their video and voted on which ones we sent on to NACD that will be spotlighted during Stewardship Week on their social media platforms. I'm really amazed at some of the videos that our districts came up with. One of them that's going on to NACD is Northern Virginia's forestry video. They wrote and sang and produced their own forestry song. So stay on the lookout for that. While NACD will be highlighting 2 of the 4 videos, we'll be highlighting them all on Stewardship Week. So plug into our Facebook page. With that, sir, unless there are questions, I tried to speed through it fairly quickly for
And
you.
we appreciate it. Are there any other questions? Are there any comments? Is there anything that needs to come before your foundation at this point? Thank you to everybody for your continued support of the foundation during these difficult times. You support us through just your moral support, through your funds. Things are continuing to go well again with the leadership that we have. If there is no other business to come before the foundation at this point, I'm going to declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Richard.
Of course, thank you.